Joe Wooltorton.
Well,
I say Curly? How are you, mate? Welcome to the Nash podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on. To start with, your West Country accent is a bit more parts Caribbean, I gotta say. It's better than the last time I saw you, though. Last time you went very Jack Sparrow.
I don't know what. I'm terrible at accents, but every time I see you, I don't know if it's just the fact that you're associated with the West Country so heavily or that you are such a proficient drinker of cider that my accent goes to sort of, I think it goes to like Cornwall. I don't know where it goes.
I don't know where it is either. It's some amalgamation of just somewhere else other than where you're from, and it's not Somerset.
Oh, play to your
But you did get my name right, so
yes.
maybe that.
Wooltorton.
Yes.
But everyone knows you as Curly, Carpology Curly.
Exactly.
Or Carpology Joe.
Or as people that notice me in the street shout, my name is nothing but fishing or Carpology. That's what I've shouted at me most often.
You get people in the street shouting.
I make it sound like I can't walk anywhere, but the odd people that spot me out and about would be like, nothing but fishing or Carpologies. Like, I do have a name, but hello.
Carpologists. Yeah, mate. Brilliant. That's good though if people recognise you in the street.
Yeah.
You are massive in the West Country, mate. But thank you for coming on, mate. What have you been up to recently?
Been manic the last couple of weeks, actually. I was just saying to you, I've only just got back from Holland. For anyone that doesn't know, my wife is Dutch, so we've just been visiting family in a place called Nijmegen, partying basically. It's a big old festival in a place called Nijmegen for the Vierdaagse. Do you like my accent?
Jeez, mate, you nailed this, haven't you?
But if there's any Dutch listeners, be like, oh, he's got that completely wrong.
Who's this?
Je spreekt een beetje Nederlands, maar ik leer het.
Oh, that's good, mate.
That could be wrong as well. No
I
one
don't
knows.
know it, mate. You could, honestly, you could say anything. I'd take it. But the fact that you're doing it so convincingly with sort of conviction means that it's probably all right.
I could be gibberish, but do it with conviction.
So you've had a trip to Holland to meet the missus' family and all that sort of stuff out there?
Catch up with them again, yeah. Yes. So we got married 3.5 months ago, so all of her family came over here. So we do see them every now and then, but since COVID, we've not been over since Swallow 2.5 years ago, I think it was.
Right.
The last Swallow show. So it's nice to go back to Holland for the first time in a long time. Got back from there. Next day I went off to the YouTube bloggers match for 2 nights. Got back from that, went fishing for a night for work, and now I'm here. So,
jeez, whistle stop, mate.
Yeah.
How's married life, mate? 3 months in?
It's all good. I get asked that question so often that people I haven't seen since the wedding. Nothing changes, does it? I've just got a bit of metal to lose on my finger now.
Yeah. In terms of fishing, she like a bit of fishing, you missus? Or?
She's been once or twice. The first time I took her, she caught the biggest one of the trip. So
go on.
I'm trying not to take her anymore. No, she's come along once or twice. I think she enjoys it if the weather's nice and if she can sort of chill. Other than that, she's not too fast. But she leads me to it, which is fine.
What about lifestyle-wise? Because obviously for a spouse, this could be husband or wife, like if somebody works within the industry in your position, there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of time away. How does that trade off in a new marriage?
Just intense when I'm at home.
Is it? Massive list?
No, it's not too bad. When I met her, I said to her, look, my passion is fishing, my job is fishing, I'm away a lot, and when I'm at home, often I want to be going fishing or doing something. So if that's not a bit of you, then we won't go any further. So she knew, I laid out the land on day one.
Did you if she's here, would she corroborate that you were that?
She would.
Would you?
She would. Date one, that was as well. In the Westgate Bar in Bath.
Jeez, Louise, fair play. So she's understanding.
Yeah.
And obviously your lifestyle, sort of, it suits and everything is all right. Happy days. Well, that's good, mate. Fair play to you. We'll talk about your career, Carpology, YouTube and various other aspects. But one thing that I don't know about you, I think the first time you probably cropped up on my radar was your YouTube channel, Nothing But Fishing.
Yeah.
But what I don't know is your story in angling preceding that. If I'm honest, I thought that you were a YouTube film videographer.
Yeah.
Come angler. I didn't know your story before, mate. So talk to me about your fishing, how you got into carp fishing. Was it that, or did you just find it through that YouTube channel later on?
No, so I went fishing once or twice with one of my mates I've been mates with since we were 3. I went with him and his dad a couple of times to a little wild lake near us called Pretty. Caught a few small fish. I think I actually lost my first ever carp I hooked. I didn't know it was a carp at the time. Lost it. Just went straight into a load of reeds. But took it or leave it. I went along with a mate because he was going fishing with his dad on the weekend when we were back in primary school sort of time. Didn't think any more of it. We then went to secondary school where we met with one of my other now close friends, Sam. So Sam and George, I'll give them a shout out. They'll probably be listening.
Big love, Sam and George.
They both were keen anglers by this point, but I never went fishing with my friend from primary school, George, very much. But this new friend that we'd made friends in year 7, he was a keen fisherman with his dad. Those two then started going fishing. It was a bit of a big case of FOMO, fear of missing out. They were going fishing on the weekends. I was like, I've not seen my best mate for a while, so I could either try and get them to do something I want to do or join them. So I joined them. I started going fishing. And that's genuinely how I got into fishing, was because I wanted to see my mates, and that's what they were doing on the weekends. Now, one of them still fishes as much as he can, and the other one doesn't really have the time. And I'm the one still here. It's my career in life.
Job, yeah.
So that's getting into fishing. So
it weren't like you sort of, how can you say? There weren't like an inner real passion for fishing. You enjoyed it, but the main thing was sort of you wanted to be with your mates.
It started like that, yeah. And then obviously the passion came with it, because I thought, actually, I am enjoying fishing. I see why they go. And I've fished for ever since. So how many years is that? I think I probably started when I was 12. Yeah. Now 28. Quick maths. Is that 16 years?
Yeah, I'll take that.
I think.
Yeah, I think you're there for 16 years.
Yeah, I think about 16 years I've been fishing. And a couple of years in, I was properly immersed in it. I think I started buying a Carpology magazine probably fairly early days, actually.
He's taking care
I know,
of
no, I'm just saying, I think I got my
setup.
first ever subscription package, and it came with I think it was a Free Spirit Real Tree head to toe sort of waterproof suit. And I thought I looked the business. I looked at this and some garden wren tackle. But I got properly into it, and anything I could find content-wise, like Passion for Angling, Matt Hayes, Mick Brown, anything I could watch. And it's funny, I've just watched the Chris Yates one, and now I'm sat doing a podcast with you after him.
Easy. It should be up there,
so, yeah, I'll just fully immerse myself in it. I started to think, that's when I got a interest in the filming side of things. So I was watching it thinking, that'd be quite cool to do myself. And YouTube there was not really anyone doing it on YouTube other than the Carp Catcher. Blog Time, remember him?
Yeah, I do.
Proper old school blogger. And he was one of the first people to do it. And I thought, I might give that a try. And so I started using, I think, an old Sony Ericsson to start with. There's some very old, ancient footage on YouTube, filmed on a phone, propped on a bucket of me holding up like 4-pound carp with a squeaky little voice. And I just progressed from there. Just thought, I'd give this a go. Slowly got better cameras. I don't know if the presenting style's got any better, but I did it more convincingly.
Mate, that like is a whistle stop sort of journey with regards to that. Your actual angling,
yeah.
Before we go into the realms of YouTube and that generation, because you were on it pretty early by the sounds of it. But the West Country, I don't know too much about. Even now, if somebody said to me, I know a couple of venues in the West Country, and that's probably it. You, in terms of carp fishing, and if you like the carp fishing as we know it now, alarms, buzzers, etc., venue-wise, where did you go? What sort of size of fish? What did you learn? How did that all pan out? Because I think that can often be sort of denoted by where you're based. Like, I'm thinking about it up north now. I live up north now, but I didn't live up north, and knowing how anglers up north have developed with sort of limited waters, fewer carp, and sort of similarities with the southwest. Is it the same case of sort of growing up on maybe slightly trickier venues? They were not the sort of the local venues with the numbers of fish that maybe there is in sort of, I don't know, the south or wherever else.
We started on little runs waters. There's one very close to us called Hunt Street, so it's just around the corner because we used to get dropped off by our dads. So 3 of us, all of our kit in one family estate car, getting dropped off by one of our dads, and then the other dad would pick us up on the way home. So we were limited on distance, and also our ability dictated that we just went somewhere fairly easy. Yeah. And also, you're right, the West Country, just unless you're in the sort of position I am in now where you start to hear about some certain waters, there's very little down our way. I'm quite lucky I'm on a decent syndicate now down my way. But other than that, it's, you struggle to find venues that will get you noticed for size of captures or difficulty, shall I say, unless you are on that very small percentage of people that can find and get on a decent water down our way. I think that answers your question. Is that what you're kind of saying?
That's good, mate. I like that. For you now, West Country wise, for anglers coming up, what venues are sort of runs waters or a good place to learn? Where would you add?
Yes, I still fish some of the waters that I learnt to fish on because they're local. If I need a bend in the rod, especially for some of the videos I do, I'll need to get some bites. So I've got Newton Park and Hunt Street, which are on a Bathampton AA ticket. There's a few stretches of river and just a few day tickets dotted around, all of which, if you just Google West Country Carp Fisheries, you'll have a very short list, but there's a few about that you can find. And also with the introduction of this new catch app, which I think you're doing some stuff with as well.
Yeah.
You can discover some new little gems as well. So recently I fished a really lovely water. It was actually down Exeter sort of way, Creedy Lakes. Never heard of it before. Found it on the app, and really lovely fishery. So that's looking quite promising for people like us, the West Country, that struggle for venues. There may be venues about, but unless they're in the public eye, you're not going to know about them.
Why do you think that is, that there isn't the amount of venues? Because it's quite a big chunk of country, mate, isn't it? If you cut off that sort of southwest bit, that's a lot of land, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Why do you think there's not that many carp fisheries?
I don't know. Is it geographical? I don't know about the ins and outs of what makes a decent fish. I know that up north it gets a bit more difficult for size of fish as well, but I don't know, if I'm honest with you. There's
Climate's
a lot of...
good, don't it?
Sorry?
Climate's good. You'd think if you got fish in there and a decent sheet of water, they'd grow in terms of they're going to get probably 5 degrees warmer than sort of up north.
Yeah. I guess there could be people from my area listening to this thinking, you're forgetting about this venue and that venue.
Yeah, definitely.
Compared to the rest of the country, with my work, nearly every shoot I do, I'll be going north or towards Essex or Suffolk based, because there's just so much more water.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to choose from. You come down our way and the sat nav just goes from blue to green. So it's all fields and orchards around our way.
Well, it helps you out with your famous drinking escapades,
I'm not complaining with that.
No, yeah. Your syndicate, you said at the moment, you referenced it there. Mm-hmm. So there are a few gems of syndicates, but you've got to be in the know. What sort of size of fish in there?
So I got my foot in the door a few years. I won't mention the name just out of courtesy of the venue and everything, but I got my foot in the door with a friend that was on there, and then actually did wedding reception photos for the owner, which is quite a good way of getting in their good books.
What a touch.
And then a slot came up and I got on. So I use it a lot for my work filming, and of course the fish that are in there for our area are pretty insane. So I actually got lucky a couple of years ago when I met my missus, of course, but then I went fishing and got lucky again. And I caught one of the lake's big ones at 46.1, which was, don't forget the ounce.
You need the one.
I got to remember the ounce. And there's a couple more 40s in there to go for. Spawning's not been too kind to us the last couple of years. We've lost a couple of the gems, but the fish that are in there that are now pushing on will take their place again.
When you say gems, what do you mean in terms of size, looks,
type
of carp?
A bit of both, really. They're not sort of old school, dark leanies and that sort of thing. But the fish that you do catch are always good nick. They're fairly young fish, but putting on good weight. I don't know all the ins and outs of different fish strains and all sorts. I'm not a purist like that. If I enjoy what I'm catching, happy days, and if they're big and pretty, I'm happy.
Yeah, nice. But size is a relevant factor. That's a big fish down there.
It is for our area, because I can go a lot of places day tickets and catch fish up to 20s on run tours, which is I just enjoy just as much now as I did when I first started. Every now and then I just want to put the rods out, chill in the middle of nowhere in the Somerset levels, and have a chance of a 40.
Yeah, nice. Catching that fish? What tactically? What are we talking?
I did what I never do and jumped in behind someone. I got to the peg one is right by the car park. It is one of my favourites because it dominates a lot of water and it's bloody easy to just set up and you just open the boot, chuck your gear out and you're there. There was someone leaving in about an hour or so, and he'd done a couple of nights for a couple of fish, and I could see the fish were still in the area, so I thought, I'll just hang fire, I'm not in any rush. He left. I got the rods out with the pole. Please snow, dropped it nice and delicately by the pads.
The old bushwhacker.
The old bushwhacker, early days bushwhacker. I think I actually had the old sample that I did a video on and kept hold of.
Yeah, of course, that's the perks.
So I used that, dropped it on the spot, and I had a take, beasted me straight through the pads, and I lost it. I thought, that's job over. Like, I've lost the fish, and it's you don't often get multiple takes on there. I found anyway. They're very much, if they know you're there, they're gone.
It's quite a small venue, is it?
Yeah, it's only 4 acres-ish, I think, at a push. It's very regimented, 5 footish, sort of all over.
Weedy or just pads?
No, it's silty, and some pads and some tree-lined areas and things. So it's an idyllic lake, beautiful lake, and quite murky. But anyway, I lost this fish, and I thought, that's it, chance gone. But this is one of the first few times I've been using the bushwhack. I didn't realise how effective it was to get a rod back out. Shipped it back out, same spot, dropped it, thinking, well, it's in the spot now, but I doubt there's anything there. Couldn't be more than 10 minutes later, fishing locked up. It went round again. And a battle that lasted, I'd say, pushing 20 minutes of this fish. Just took it all over the lake, couldn't stop it on all these blistering runs. And I now know what the fish was, but when I was playing it, the way I was playing it and seeing how it came up in the water, it was exactly the same as I'd seen other anglers catch it, because I'd witnessed it be caught before. I've done photos for other people. And this fish, when it was coming in, even far out, would come up perfectly upright, and its dorsal would come out first, and you could see it how wide it was. It didn't wallow on its side. It would come up perfectly upright.
Like a shark?
Almost, yeah. And it did that quite far out, and I was just like, no, surely not. Because up until then, I was on pest control on the lake. I'd not caught anything over £20 for months. I think I'd had 10 bites, all under 20, which is unheard of. Then I jumped the 20s and caught like a 34 or something. So it's like, happy days, I've got a bigger one. And then this fish came, I was like, surely not. After a run of all these doubles, and I just started thinking, yeah, I'm doing all right. It came up and it did it a couple of times. So the knees were going. I was just like, now I know what this is. Like, I was 90% sure of what fish it was. It came up and rolled in the net. Just lifted it. And I'd never caught anything. My previous personal best was 35, I think.
Was that same fish from there? Or was that a different?
No, that's from another lake a few years back. So up until then, 35 was my biggest, I think it was. I just lifted this net, and the shoulders just got wider and wider and wider, and it was long. It was called the long common. That's just like, I'm pretty sure that's it. But I'd never seen a fish that big in my own net before, so I was like, I'm not sure. I'll get some other members. Someone else came down, he's just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the long common. I was still just in a daze. Called the owner, she came up, and again, looked at it, like, yeah, it's the long. We weighed it 46 1. It's just, this is insane. I've gone from, like 35 to 46, over £10 jump.
That £10 jump is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. And like when you're thinking, when I was growing up, a £10 fish to a £20 fish, you think, oh, that's a big jump. But from a 30 to a 40, especially down our way, there aren't a lot of fish that size readily available, shall I say.
No.
So that's a very memorable catch. I probably went on a bit there, but
I
started reliving it then. Or even then, I'm just remembering the memories.
But that's what you go for, isn't it? It's that feeling, isn't it? Which everybody experiences. Probably not every session, but those marked moments in your angling, you can go back to them, you feel that, and everybody can relate to that feeling of like, shaky sort of. It's worse knowing what you've hooked and what you've got in the end.
Once I knew what it was, and it then took another 20-yard charge, I was just like, no, please.
But then you start like
playing it differently. You play it differently.
Oh God, yeah, we've all been there, mate. For you, in terms of angling and your thoughts, if you like, on it, and obviously you're in a very fortunate position probably now, and we'll talk about this probably again in the podcast. You've been out with a lot of different anglers, which sort of expands your angling vocabulary, if you like. But at the time, fishing down in those type of venues, for you, what were the key sort of learning points that stand out? What were the things that sort of, I don't know, were like pivotal moments where you went from maybe struggling to maybe catching because you did something, or maybe you learnt something rig wise or casting wise or whatever? Talk to me about that. I'm always interested in people's sort of progressions within angling.
Yeah, you're right. So I get to see dozens and dozens of different anglers' approaches, what they use, sort of techniques, rigs and things. And the main thing I've taken over the years is anglers overcomplicate things. We always just think, oh, what can I adjust to make differently? And I was doing that. I was falling into this trap of making these stiff hinges with perfect booms and the perfect length, and all the hinges had to be spot on. Just really overthinking the rig part of it and probably underplaying the location. Just thinking, once it's presented out there, I'll get a bite. And I wasn't getting bites, or I wasn't catching the fish I was after. And it wasn't until, I think it may have been Chile I went out with, I see just how simple he fishes and still fishes. And I think he always has these rigs and things.
Yeah.
And still catches consistently big fish. I was like, and there's a lot of other anglers that are doing the same, just keeping things simple, not getting into this headspace of thinking, I've got to use that next best rig because so-and-so's using it. So I went back to what always used to work when I was younger, simple hair rig. At most I was putting a bit of shrink tube on the eye and a bit on the shank if I wanted to trap the hair. It's basic braided hair rig. Putting it in a place where I thought would get bites, and I started catching. So that's the biggest thing that changed for me, was going back to basics, and suddenly the catch rate went up. And the less I was, the less you put into a rig, the less is there to go wrong. So you're more confident in what you're fishing with as well, I think.
Yeah. Bait? Talk to me about that.
I think once I started catching, going back to that capture you just said about my personal best, that was after going back to that simple rig and just using boil. I think the hook bait was exactly the same, out the bag boilie, scuba squig boilie, as I was putting out. So nothing was special. I just went back to basics, put it on where fish were going to be or thought they were going to be, and started catching. I'm still doing that now.
Out the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Straight on the bottom. No messing about. Same, match the hatch all the time.
Yep. I just thought I'd give it a try rather than overcomplicating everything. Go simple, and I started having a run of fish. And after that fish, I think I had back up 3 or 4 30s in a row. So I had a really good sort of couple of months on there. It's quite enough a bit now, but I put that down to not being able to go as often.
And all of it was mainly through, what was it, dropping on the old baiting pole, fishing that way?
I still use it up there all the time. Because it's a fairly small lake, I can get to where I want to put the rods with the pole pretty easily, because I feel they are very rig shy, and if they hear a lead, they will move, because it's a small lake.
Yeah.
If you're in one corner and no one else is there, they'll go somewhere else. So as quiet as you can be, it seems to work.
So rigs for you, simple. You talked about bottom baits there.
Yeah.
Pop-up presentations? What's your go-to?
I rarely use them now. If I do, it would be probably either a Ronnie if I do, or maybe a multi. I very rarely use pop-ups now. I tend to use bottom baits or wafters, and I'm a massive advocate of the solid bag now. I never used to for years.
I've witnessed the magic.
I know. Yeah, actually, and with no one's got footage of me casting that cast.
Mate,
I was
that was incredible. He's basically, we've gone out to Girton to film fishing with ready tied rigs, haven't we?
Yes.
So we're doing a little in session for Carpology. Loads of Nash ready tied rigs, and it's gone well. We've had loads of fish, haven't we? It's been absolutely mad. So the piece is pretty much filmed.
Yeah.
And then you sent me the classic videographer text of, do you reckon there's a chance of getting the rods out? And I've gone, yeah, bring your rods, mate, definitely. Yeah. And we're chucking to like a far margin where all the fish are. You'll see it on the video if you go on the Carpology website. I catch them all like along the far margin, and he's got one swim up, not clipped up, and I've gone, it's quite a small shelf. You've got to be quite tight to these reeds. And I think Ben Emptage from AJS Fisheries has come down as well.
Yeah, and is one of his mates.
So you've got like a
really
full crowd, and we're all like giving you a little bit of jip, saying, this is going in the field or short. And he's launched this solid bag, mate, within a hair's width of the far bank. No clip. You have celebrated. I did.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't going to be humble about it. I thought that was a bloody good cast, and people witnessed it. So, I did cheer that cast.
But then you did it time and time again when you weren't clipped up. As soon as you clipped up, you were absolutely banned.
I blame that on the wind picking up, but still.
It was, mate, the most impressive solid bag chuck I've ever seen, hands down.
What distance would you have given me for that as well?
I didn't know. What you saying there? You were on the wider bit. I'm saying that's all of like 70 yards.
I was going to say 70. I didn't know if you're going to undergun it with 50 or 60, but I'd say 70
yards. You would
just have to take our word for it.
Yeah. Oh, magical. We haven't got the footage. I wish we did have the footage, but that was incredible. So you're saying solid bags. You're saying pop-ups rarely, but if you do, Ronnie's, but most of the time where you can, simple, out the bag bottom bait, or matching wafter or whatever it may be on a little traditional, if you like, hair rig with a bit of a silicone kicker, job done.
Exactly that.
Why do you choose or prefer to fish on the deck?
I guess it goes with the presentation I use at the moment with solid bags. I know it's presented, and even if it's on a bit of silt or lands on a bit of weed or whatever, a solid bag is pretty much your choddy with bait around it, isn't it? Because you can cast anywhere within reason. So I know it's presented, and fish have to get their heads down to feed. So whether it's popped up slightly on top of a pile of pellet, I don't think it's making a lot of difference. As long as I'm presented there, I'm happy. Unless I do have to use like really supple or like a subtle pop up on a bit of silt or whatever, I will have to use that. But predominantly at the moment, I'd say 90% of my fishing is solid bags. Right,
so it's solid bags, is it? It's not just a little hair rig on the bottom normal. So solid bag where you can, because it gives you a buffer, I suppose, doesn't it? As you said before. I'm interested why there's not a lot of pop-ups in there, and you were like, no to pop-ups, which is just
That's nothing against pop-ups. Not really. I mean, I think everything goes around in circles. Sometimes you favour a certain rig, and you start using it all the time. And at the moment, I'm on a solid bag. I'm on a solid bag wave, much to Luke's annoyance, because he has to film me making them so many times on all these sequences.
You're pretty quick at making them, though, mate.
Getting there, yeah. But when you got to film it as well, and film it several times before you get the rods out,
fiddly.
it takes a bit of time.
Fair play. I like the little rig fort. That's good, mate. I was wondering if there wasn't pop-ups because you fished not mad weedy venues when you were coming up, but maybe it's just a case of,
I guess I have never really fished many weedy waters, and if I do go to a weedy venue, I am one of those that's a bit like, okay, reassess, how am I going to attack this? Because I've grown up fishing pretty clean bottoms, silty at most, so I've never had to combat weed too much, and if I do, I'll deal with it when I get there.
Do one of those?
Yeah. If I can get away with using solids or a simple bottom bait rig, I will.
Is that the area, do you think, the area that you sort of feel most sort of tested, if you like, on some sort of football pitch weedy venue?
Yeah, I guess, weed and distance, because again, all the venues I've grown up fishing, you can underarm or fairly easily overarm cast to them. Like that cast with the solid bag, I'm going to reference it again. That's a big distance for me because I've never fished big venues. So if I went to somewhere where you have to put all 3 rods on a spot at 100 yards and spod, I'd probably be out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's not how I've grown up to fish. That's not what I'm used to.
Is it something that appeals to you? That sort of being out your comfort zone and fishing in manners where, I don't know, where you're tested, or are you happy? And I know it's difficult because you've got work fishing and you've got your own fishing, or are you happy sort of staying on venues that play to your strengths at the moment?
I play to my strength at the moment because with work, the turnaround of videos we do, as you've experienced when you used to work for Carpology, it's insane the turnaround sometimes. We can be out shooting one thing one day, the next day it's got to be edited and up before I'm out filming someone else. So sometimes don't have the luxury to spend a bit of time on a water that needs a bit more thought, if that makes sense. So I'd love to try new venues and put a bit more of a test to myself in my angling. But time often just means I can't. So that's why I probably still fish easier waters.
Yeah, well, fair, because time is, it's an issue. And as you say, half of your time, you've actually got to get something off the end of it. You can't really go there and not have
the added pressure of filming and having advertisers that have requested fish be caught on this, or it'd be great to show it being in use. Then there's the added pressure of having to catch. It'd
be great to show a 40-pounder on some of that new particle, Joe. You want to make it happen? I completely get that. In terms of, again, just a little sort of hark back to your angling journey, anything, any funny stories or anything coming through from back then that sort of pop into mind? You're with a bunch of lads, you're sort of having a good social, but you're also trying to angle. Anything sort of funny occur? Anything random at any venues? Anything like that?
You know, I probably sound really boring because I've been asked this before, if there's any funny stories. I don't have great, like, I'm not a Frank Warwick. I don't have a dozen stories at the top of my tip of my fingers sort of to tell you. There's probably ones that me and my mates would find funny, but other than that, not a lot. So I'm probably going to sound quite boring with that.
No, not at all, mate. It is what it is, isn't it? Do you, where did the love of cider kick in?
Straight from the tit to the bottle, I think. The West Country way. No, it is pretty much when you start drinking, it's cider or beer. What you're going to start using. So I drank cider, and I actually went off it for a good year or two because...
When's this?
Well, early days of drinking, because I started to associate cider with throwing up and the taste of sick because I couldn't handle my drink back then. So then every time I smelt a cider, I was like, no thanks. So I went into beer and actually had to wean myself back onto cider. Now I couldn't think of never having it again, I don't think.
Not that Joe's got a problem.
I not have a problem.
He's not...
The day I start hiding my drink and not admitting that I'm drinking cider, that's when I got a problem.
I think that was just, synonymous with you. I think I remember doing a nothing but fishing shoot with you, and you come in with like a can of cider. And didn't we at the end of this shoot? Didn't you crack some cider at the end of this shoot?
Did indeed, yeah.
Like, this is Joe, or this is the one. Well, you know you're done when that's happened.
And it's my reputation precedes me now, because sometimes I think, right, I'm not going to have anything this week. I'll try and stick to the weekends. I'm at that stage now. I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm cutting back. But I'll go fishing now, and the people I'm filming with, they'll be, I've got some cans chilling for later because I know you like a cider, and I can't say no to a free one. And when someone's brought them specifically, so then I think, okay, I've had one on a Monday now. I might as well drink all week.
I reckon you could be the first carp angler to get a full deal, mate. I reckon you're producing enough videos, mate.
You'd think that. I've even gone to the Thatcher's factory. My sister got me a guided tour. My 20...
That's a great present,
I think it was. It's Myrtle Farm, so it's only just the other side of Cheddar Gorge, which is... Cheddar is about 25 minutes from me. So about 10 minutes beyond that, you got the actual farm it's all made on. So I was going around seeing these just huge containers, probably similar to the bait factories, but cranked up to serve a whole country of cider. And just these vats. I was like, was it Augustus Gloop in the chocolate factory? I could have easily fallen in. It was it was an amazing day, and just to see it, how it's all made, and know that will go straight back into my body.
Thatchers, if you're listening to this podcast, which you definitely are, you need to get this man a big deal, mate. Sign him up. That could happen, couldn't it?
I wouldn't say no to that.
That'd be all right. A lifetime supply of Thatchers.
I don't have to be impartial there.
No, you've actually said Thatchers, so what you've done there is not smart and savvy, because you've cut out the rest of the marketplace, haven't you? You've pinned all your hopes on Thatchers.
I haven't just generic said cider. Actually, if Strongbow's listening, I don't even want a sponsorship from you. That's not cider.
You can't go there now. Brilliant, mate. Yeah, Thatchers. If that happens, I'd be amazed.
I'll put it down to this podcast.
Could only be, couldn't it? And we talked a little bit. You talked before about your sort of, I don't know, your way into filming, but the very starting point. For you, your angling journey went through. You stayed with your mates. You carried on angling. You found that passion for it. You developed as an angler, and then pretty early on, you said you made that decision to start looking into that YouTube channel filming aspect.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there was some form of, could be tech savviness, desire, passion for filmmaking and videography.
Yeah, I guess so. I set up Nothing But Fishing in January 2009. I worked out the other day, which is, again, 13 and a half years.
Wow.
So I was... my master's terrible. I think I was about 14-ish when I set up. And I'd been doing a few bits on YouTube before then with mates. We were filming, making like little tennis ball mortars, I think we called them. Taping cans together, filling them with fuel, and firing a tennis ball across a football field.
Classic
Sounds
West
bizarre.
Country. Classic West Country.
Yeah, but I'd film little things like that. And as soon as I had a camera, I was just filming anything. Even to the point I took a Sony camera out once on a night out in Bath, into clubs, photographing my mates, and they were all just thinking, what are you doing? But I was that into my photography and having a camera with me, I just documented everything. Same with my fishing. Sometimes just people are like, why are you filming yourself? What are you doing? I just enjoyed doing it and making an end piece, even if they're awful. Fishing for me wasn't just catching and going fishing, it was making something else while I was there. So I had the enjoyment of catching, I had the enjoyment of using a camera. So I just combined the two, and that's pretty much how Nothing But Fishing started. The name started from...
Yeah, what's the name? Where'd you get that?
If you pronounce it properly, it's Nothing But Fishing. But I don't talk like that. So I said Nothing But Fishing. I was like, oh, that'll do. Double F. And spelt it all wrong. Put it in, never expecting it to go anywhere. So now, but Nothing But Fishing is what's stuck. And I'm glad I went for it, because it sort of rolls off the tongue quite well if you're West Country anyway.
Yeah, mad. The whole filming things, and you talked there about a night out or whatever else.
Yeah.
How did that not make you feel conscious if all your mates are sort of going, what are you doing? Did you not feel sort of, I don't know.
Yeah. I remember one of my comments to them once when they were saying, oh, you've always got your camera with you. And I said, yeah, you go on Facebook, every single one of your profile pictures is one of my photos from a night out or something. So I don't know. I just enjoyed it. And yeah, probably looking back, I was a bit of an idiot taking a Sony SLR into a nightclub. But I just wanted to document so many things. And I think the attention to detail when it comes to filming outside and that comes back to when I was really young. Even my grandparents said from a young age, I was very attentive to nature and seeing things that other people maybe wouldn't have normally. So maybe my eye was in a different way to how most people are. So from a young age, I was told from grandparents that I had an attention to detail with how things looked. I think the first film I ever did was on my granddad's old handycam with an optical zoom with a cassette in. And I've got it back home of me going around Haynes Motor Museum filming all the cars. And I must have been about 10, 11. That's the first time I've got an actual piece of footage that I put together. So it's from a very young age that I liked having a camera in my hand.
That's pretty cool, mate, isn't it? And absolutely bang on for the time, because obviously the YouTube boom, the sort of self-filming YouTuber generation. Mm-hmm. For you, school-wise, was photography, videography part of that? Were you looking at sort of doing, I don't know, photography A-level or going to uni and pursuing that type of sort of creative element, or was it something completely different?
Yeah, so the YouTube was very much a bit on the side of education, because There wasn't anything at school at the time that was that creative. I was rubbish at art. I could not draw for my life or paint or anything. But when I had a camera, I was a bit more artistic. I could see how things should be framed and that. Sixth form, we were the first year they introduced a photography A level. So straight away, I took that up and did well at that. And then I went on to college and did an extended diploma in photography. All thinking that there's never going to be a way of making money filming my fishing videos. So I'm going to learn photography and maybe become a wedding photographer or something. That was my direction. I was going to find something to do with cameras and keep my fishing as my enjoyment and hobby.
So cameras were always career. Yes. There was always that link.
Yes. I wanted to do something with camera, and it wasn't filming. I was thinking I'm not going to make money out of my filming. Photography seems to be what a lot of people do. And one of my work experiences actually was at a little company that my mum got me sorted with called VidPR. And the bloke there said, future of photography is dead. It's all in video. And I was just like, he doesn't know what he's on about. But I was only like, I don't know, 16 at the time. I was like, nah, photography is what I'm going to do. And here we are, all these years later, and it's all video. It's just constant content of video. It's so required in the industry, in all industries as well. I think I've gone off. I've lost trail of thought. What's the initial question?
No, don't worry. We're on a good train. Your sort of skills in photography,
yes.
How easy were they to adapt to videography? Obviously, there's a progression. You talked about better cameras, and you talked about all that. But learning how to sort of translate what is a good still image into what is a good frame or good sort of, I don't know, whatever composition for a video, was that easy for you?
But I think because I actually started filming before I did much photography, because I was blogging from such a young age, I found the photography was actually what I started to learn after, and then I implemented what I'd learned in photography back into my filming.
Right.
So things like your shutter speeds and apertures, your framing, exposures, white balance, that's all transferable into filming. So when I started learning more photography, it was very basic, like it was all academic. These are the modules you've got to learn, you've got to do that. But I was always pushing it a bit more, doing it in my own time with fishing. So I was learning more than what I had to.
Yeah.
So I did really well with the diploma, but I was always implementing that back into my filming. Slowly progressed through my cameras, equipment. I went from like I said, a Sony Ericsson. I think I started on a little old phone. Then my sister's digital camera. Then I got a Toshiba Cameleo Pro HD. Still remember the name, 720p HD. Then I got a Sony C3. Then an NEX 7. Then I jumped to my R2, which is when I started to think I'm going to invest some time and money into this. I'll probably get onto that when we talk about moving on into my career of filming. But that's how things progressed. I was very much, I learned through doing, and if there's something I thought, how do I do that? I'd quickly YouTube, because I was so heavily into YouTube from so young. My way of learning was straight away YouTube, Google, how do I do this? How do I edit that? How do I make this look like the way I've seen? And that's how I learned things. And then as soon as I'd watch a video, be right, I'll try it myself. And that's how my filming's progressed, basically through self-teaching predominantly.
Welcome to the new generation. It's funny that your fishing journey, your reference points you talked about before were like Matt Hayes, Mick Brown, video, sort of mainly, maybe a few articles here and there, but mostly video. And then you basically got the same in terms of your career, but on YouTube as a platform rather than TV. But it's still quite video based, isn't it? Your sort of, your ability to film and fish, how easy was that to do? Because there's filming something, there's fishing, there's trying to do both those things together. I feel like if I tried to do those two things together now, I would be 50% at each rather than 100% at something. That's because I'm terrible with a camera. But for you, and that process, and fishing, that is true. I left that out. That process of being able to do that, how did you find that?
It is difficult. It depends what you want the end product to look like. If you want it to be really polished and cinematic, which I've made a few videos like that, I really have to put the effort in at the time. If you're just trying to push out, I've gone fishing, here's what I'm doing, fairly basic, it's easier. But also because I've filmed my fishing from such a young, so early in my fishing, it's second nature now. Me going fishing is rods in the car, bed chair in the car, bivvy in the car, tripod and camera bag. That is my norm. I very rarely ever go anywhere without a camera when it's fishing. So it's kind of part of my tackle, I suppose. It's just another element of my angling. It does take a knock-on effect on your fishing ability, because sometimes an opportunity will arise, and because you want to get it on film, that window may have just gone because you were quickly getting the camera. So it's getting the balance, and it is difficult doing it on your own. And for years, that's what I've done. I remember having a few comments when I put loads of effort in. I made a really nice piece. People saying like, "Oh, I always thought you had a cameraman with you." And that was like the biggest compliment I could have got, because it looked like someone else had filmed it. So I made a video still on my channel of how I film my blogs, and I did a behind the scenes with a GoPro, setting up the camera, walking, doing the scene of like me getting to a swim, all the little cinematic shots. And then what people don't see is me then stopping, put my gear down, going back, getting the camera, and doing that on a session. It does tire you out, but it's because I had the passion of making a video and the end product just as much as my fishing that makes me do it. And I'm still doing it this many years later.
What was the reaction like being on venues and filming, and people sort of, because nowadays it's pretty normal, to a certain extent on a lot of venues to expect to see a person maybe blogging or even a camera crew with an angler. It's pretty the norm. You'll see something like that probably, but I'm guessing at the time, especially where you are, it's not a great deal of especially young lads doing that sort of stuff. Any strange like reactions to it, or anybody like, I don't know, not happy with the fact that you're doing that on a venue?
Not so much not happy. I've had, when in the early days, it was more a case of I felt awkward if someone came and rocked up next to me because I was filming. I'd actually move so I could continue filming, or I'd put the camera away. And I used to be so shy on camera. If anyone was near and heard me, I'd put the camera away, or if someone had just come around into the car park, I'd start whispering like this to the camera and put it away. I was so shy. Now I can be filming something, the bailiff will walk out, or someone will come round, and I won't even look at them. I'll just finish my piece and they'll be like, "Morning, you're right," because it's just so normal for me to carry on talking to camera. So, like you said, it's much more natural now. People see you with a tripod there and a camera. The most you'll get is "Well, you're optimistic, ready for a fish," because the camera's already set up. No one seems to care anymore. No one really seems to mind filming. I've not had many issues. The odd angry farmer coming around with a rifle. This happened this week, flying a drone over a lake, and I had permission to film there. And he came around, he's like, "Is that your drone?" I was like, "Yeah." He had a rifle over his shoulder. It's just like, "I was going to shoot it down. We keep getting people flying over here." And then he was absolutely fine after that, once I said what we were doing. But that's the extent of having people have issues. The odd time people have made comments. We'll probably get onto the whole negative side of YouTube and social media and that, but not many people have an issue at the time of filming. Maybe afterwards being like, "Oh, you shouldn't show your spots and things."
Yeah.
Especially very naive of me. When I first got into pike fishing, I didn't realise how precious pike anglers can be as well. And I did a whole video on my pike fishing, which was fine. And I had several comments from local people, "Oh, how you get there?" Because it was, at the time, I was still fairly small channel, I believed. I did a video of showing directions of getting to this bit of the river and where I was fishing. And I just got absolutely decimated for people saying, "Pike, you're the reason this stretch is going to die now, because everyone and their dogs and their missus is going to be down fishing for the pike and they're all going to die." It's like, whoa, I thought carp anglers were bad. Like, you pike guys are just as bad as well.
But it's an innocent mistake, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was naive, still just trying to help people. I was genuinely just trying to help the people that wanted to go fishing, how you get to this bit of the river. Didn't even cross my mind about people getting arsey about it.
Yeah, too right. Your motivation, you said help people. Is that the main reason you started that channel? Was it because you said document stuff before, and I'm guessing that you didn't think that it could lead to a career maybe, but it was a project and like a hobby, something to do that you were passionate about. You talked about helping people. Was that the main factor? Is that what sort of drives your video making? I know now it's commercial, there's a different aspect to it, but that Nothing But Fishing channel, was that the main principle?
I don't think it was for educational purposes, because I didn't and still don't really deem myself as an angler that can teach anyone anything. It was more an entertainment value. There wasn't a lot of content on YouTube when I first started for fishing, which made me think, well, someone's got to make it or start doing it. So those of us that were fairly early in the game of YouTube, like the Carp Catcher, myself, Back of the Landing, I think started around the same time. Carl and Alex popped up not long after me, I don't think. So we were some of the first people that started making free content on YouTube for fishing, I think for entertainment value. I was very into watching other videos on YouTube, still am. So I thought, well, I'll give that a try myself. So if people learn stuff along the way, happy days. I don't consider myself a a particularly good angler. I do what I can and catch what I can. If people learn stuff from it, great. But if not, I just hope it's entertaining more than anything.
Yeah, okay. It definitely is entertaining, mate. You've got a very good way about, even though you said there about presenting in the journey, I think you've always had a very good sort of engaging manner on sort of camera, mate. I think definitely, even when you're talking about something relatively, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Mundane, innocuous. But yeah, no, I think, fair play to you. I think you did really well with that. The channel grew.
Yeah.
And the whole sort of, the whole fashion, if you like, around YouTube grew. Why do you think your channel grew? Was it the fact that it was in a niche area, or was it the fact that you were able to sort of bring your charisma and personality in there? What do you think made it so successful?
It's probably a combination of a lot of things. One of the reasons I think my channel has done okay, and some people have kind of invested in me, is I like to think on camera I'm exactly the same as I am in person. I don't try and act professional on camera. I'll still be sat there having a cider. I'll deliberately make sure I leave in the mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes whilst fishing, casting at a tree, snapping up, losing fish. Everything goes in, so I keep it really relatable, but at the same time try and make it look visually appealing as well. The transition into trying to think I could make something more of this was, at the time, was still just trying to grow my channel, because you get initial views from locals because people want to see their local venue, how other people have fished it. But to get beyond that, you've got to either keep visiting loads of places or make your content a lot more visually appealing than the next guy. And I can't remember why, it's probably 6-7 years ago. I thought, right, I'm going to start investing some time and more money actually into my equipment. So that's when I bought at the time, a brand new Sony A7R II, which was, I think, $2,500.
So it's a couple of grand,
I just saved up a lot and did a bit of finance with that. And I thought, now I'm filming in 4K, I need a decent Mac. So I bought a Mac. At the time, I was working at Bath College as a photography technician by this point. So I had teacher's discount at Apple. So I saved about $1,000 on a top of the range, everything spec'd out Mac. So I went big camera, big Mac, decent tripod with like nice fluid drag head. So I really invested in it. I thought, if I want to make this look more professional, I've got to get better kit.
At this stage, were you thinking about that return financially or not on that channel?
No, right, not really. It was still thinking, if I was still going down the route of, if I'm going to do photography, I want to have a decent camera.
Okay.
But if it still films in 4K, and that is great for my channel. So it was very much just a labour of love with Nothing But Fish, and I wanted to make better content, because just like you get that buzz of catching a good fish, I get a buzz out of putting a nice piece of footage together, a B-roll sequence of nice music. I get just as much enjoyment out of that and a nice photo as I do of catching a nice fish. So putting that all together, it just made sense. And then you get the feedback from people saying, oh, that's really nicely put together piece, like beautifully filmed and things. That to me is what feeds my filming, getting the responses. And so I started to get the response of people saying, oh, your camera quality is better now, and like the filming is good, and they've been watching for years, your presenting is better. So just kept on thinking, the more response you get like that, the more confidence you've got that what you're doing is correct. But still, at this point, I didn't think I'd get in the industry, because it wasn't really, not many people had it as a job, I don't think, as a cameraman in fishing that much. Not like now. Every company's got a videographer now.
What was your work before? You said you were a technician at the Bath.
Also, yeah, so at one point I was doing my Nothing But Fishing on weekends. I worked at my dad's bakery on a Saturday for years. I was a waiter / bar staff at 2 pubs at one point and at a college. So at one point I had 4 jobs on the go and my Nothing But Fishing. So I did all sorts, but my previous proper jobs were photography technician or just general technician at Bath College and Radstock College. But that was part-time. And a job application came up on Facebook for several different companies. I kept applying to them, not getting anything back. And I saw
these angling companies?
I think I'd look around at some general ones, but I knew that I wasn't going to really enjoy making that content, but it was a case of I need to get my foot in the door somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember now, it's because I applied for the Carpology job, and I got a reply from my now boss, Joe and Rob, saying, sorry, you weren't successful this time, but we'll keep your information on file. And I'd had several sort of replies like that from other companies, so I thought another one just to say.
Who'd you apply to? Give me these other
I genuinely can't remember, but I know that I had a few rejections or ignored emails from different companies. So I thought maybe this isn't the way, and I was still thinking I need to get money through wedding photography, event photography, so that it's just pipeline dreams of applying to these fishing companies. Thought nothing more of it. I think 9 months had gone by, and there was an opportunity to be a cameraman's assistant on Skomer Island, capturing the puffins. Skomer Island's not too far from me. It's off the coast of way up Pembrokeshire, I think.
Okay.
Is that right? Anyway, it was a photography tech, sort of a assistant job, going to Skomer Island for a week, pretty minimum pay, but it was something to go on the CV of helping someone. And I was applying for that, to and forth with this guy. And in that same week, I then got an email from Joe at Carpology saying, we've got a position come up. This is when Lewis Porter, that was here, he's now at Quarter, isn't he?
Yeah. When
he
Lou
was
left.
he was just leaving, so they had a vacancy came up, and they had kept my stuff on file. And so in the space of a week of me nearly getting this Skomer Island gig, I had an email from Carpology, and I was just like, I really need to know which one I need to go down. And it was in the space of 2 hours, the Skomer Island job, I got an email saying, sorry, someone else has now taken the position, is a bit more suited. I was gutted about that. About an hour or two later, this is whilst I was at work, I had an email from Carpology saying, we'd like to have you up for an interview. When can you do? And sort of booking me in. So one door shut, another one swung open. I thought, all right, I've actually got a chance here. And that's pretty much how it started. I went up to the interview a few weeks later. Looking back, I think it was quite obvious Joe and Rob wanted me, because they put me up in a 5-star hotel, paid a steak lunch. I know, proper like.
You're not getting that now, mate.
No, and I said after this meal and after a few pints aside and that, we're talking about the job and things and what I'd do. I said, oh, when do you think I'd hear? Because I was still under the impression this was going to be a longer process. And they both looked at each other and just went, well, now, do you want the job or not? Because I think they thought I already knew the job was mine, but they hadn't actually said it. And they're just like, well, it's yours if you want it. I was like, oh, yes, please then.
A classic fishing industry, mate. Like your first venture into it, you think like, there's a big company here. They're going to have to talk to people. They're going to go through something. Nah, there's two of them. Yeah. They run it. They want you because they've called you up. So do you want the job? Nah, that is cool. We'll talk about Carpology years and Joe and Rob, absolute legends. Like, yeah, what a place. I spent time there with Lou Porter. It is brilliant, and it's still doing so well, which is so good to see. And credit to you guys and them for sort of lasting the course, because, yeah, magazine-wise, it's been tricky in recent years. Back to Nothing But Fishing, significant sessions, chapters, things that really stand out for you on that channel. What are they?
One of which was, I did one called Main Lake Diaries. Now, this is one of the venues that I grew up on. There's 3 lakes on the complex, 2 of which were runs waters, and one of them, called the Main Lake, was always the big boy lake. Like, I had no idea how to fish it. The only ones that fished on there were hardcore anglers, knew what they were doing. When in actual case, they're probably using the same tactics we were, just you have to put more time in it. It was a more difficult lake. The stock wasn't as dense, and the fish were a bit wiser. So I thought, I'll give it a try on there. And I think it was 12 blanks. I was documenting each session, still uploading them, even if they're 2 or 3 sessions in a chunk. And it just wasn't going well. I thought, I'm going to do like a feature-long one, not put anything up, just keep filming there until I catch one. And it was about an hour-long special. I call it a special. It's still only on my little channel. But for me, that was like a long campaign on this lake, and I'd lost one. And I finally booked like a week off work and thought, I'm just going to stick loads of time in there, because time is your friend in fishing. If you can get on somewhere a lot, you'll increase your chances massively. And I fished a couple of days on the trot, and I started to learn where the fish were at certain times of day. So the next day when I went there, one of the swims was free. The fish were showing elsewhere like mad. And just like, I'm pretty sure they're going to turn up here at a certain point. And everything just slotted into place. The fish started showing around, I think it's about 4:30 in the afternoon, which is when I expected them to be there. It's the first time I've ever put a load of thoughts in my head, like what should work. And it actually started paying off. I was like, oh, I've actually worked something out here. And I ended up catching my, my then PB. I think it was 32 or 35. I forget the actual weight, but it was a fish called Lumpy. So I'd gone from 12 blanks on a trot to catching my first ever 30, like a low to mid 30. And that was all captured on film, the bite and everything. So that was one of my memorable captures, memorable videos as well. Redmire, I fished Redmire, I got on there once and he allowed me to film. So that was pretty awesome. So I was just talking to you before the podcast, you've just done one with Chris Yates, and I was listening to all that thinking, hang on, I'm on this podcast next. Why am I in the same seat as him? Because that's like what I grew up.
Mate. Yeah, unbelievable. What was that like? Was it was
special,
it? Yeah. Well, did it have that atmosphere and?
Yeah, and I wanted to be as careful as I could filming it, not to make it one of my bog standard blogs. So I went all out with the filming aspect of things. I actually started the video with the Passion for Angling tune.
Oh.
How I haven't got copyright for that, I don't know. It's still up there.
You're explain it now, mate.
Yeah, so it starts with that. Maybe he was happy with the tune, but it started with that, and I went all down the route of I'm just happy to be. And I genuinely was. One of those really cliche things. It's not catching us being there that counts, but secretly you all want to catch a red mark carp. And the way I caught it as well was lovely, because it's a 3-rod venue now. I think you got your swims, and the swim I was in was just, wasn't getting anything. But there was this one hole at the top end in the shallows, and it was bizarre because it was not far from where I remember seeing the scarecrow in the water that Chris Yates put there. And I was just thinking, it's mad that I'm here fishing, and there was this clear bowl among the weed, which the fish clearly had been using as like a feeding spot, a rubbing spot. And I just kept feeding it there, and fish were coming in. I thought, I'm going to have one from here with one rod. So I went at the top end, and both, I think it was a 48-hour session, and I barely sat in my swim other than at night. The rest of the time I was at the top end with one rod in this little spot feeding the fish, and it was gin clear. I could watch them. I was hiding behind this tree, and they were coming in, visiting the spot, and they kept on sussing me out. I was just, what's going on? Like, why am I not getting a bite?
What, like spooking? Or
not really spooking, but they're coming in, looking at the spot, and then just, you could tell they knew something was up, and they'd swim off again. They'd come in, maybe take the odd few bits, and would very obviously leave my rig. I thought, I'm going to have to reassess. So I brought everything in. I had been using like a lead core leader or leadless leader through to a braided hook link. I was thinking, maybe they're seeing that, is it standing out on a clear bottom? So I went to straight through to just a lead clip, no leader, blobs of putty to make it all pin down, and a fluorocarbon D-rig with a single fake corn on. So I thought, corn's got to be a good shout. Put that down, and the fish coming in, they're starting to act a bit more confident, and this big, I'd guess it around a mid-20 common came in and just sat above my rig for a good half an hour, didn't move. All these other fish coming in, feeding around it, almost like it knew my rig was there and it was protecting these other fish from it. And eventually sort of meandered off. I thought my chances gone. All the bait's gone by this point. He'd swam off, leaving just my rig there. They'd had their fill. This one little scamp of a common, I think it's about £8, came in, went down. He's going to have it. Sure enough, whizzed off. And it's all on film again. The coots started going absolutely berserk because I've been silent for hours.
Yeah.
Alarm burst into life, bow wave through the weed, coots kicking off. And this was about 20 minutes till we had to be out the car park. I finally caught one.
Oh.
So as far as shoots go, that was a pretty good one. Fast forward, I think probably the peak for my channel was Bude Canal when Alan Blair came down and joined me for the trip. So he'd seen, I think my previous one, and said, I want to fish it. And we tried organising it. I was thinking, this is never going to happen. He's such a busy man, as you know. And eventually we got dates in the diary. I thought, it's actually going to happen. And he came down. So we fished on Bude Canal, and
that looks beautiful though. Like
it is.
The drone stuff and that over that area, it does look mega.
If you love cormorant, you can fish virtually on the beach, pretty much out on the canal when the sun sets over the sea there as well. So it's an absolutely stunning venue, and it's pretty much a run to water on a canal. So if you want to catch a canal carp, it's a good place to start. Apologies, Jordan, if you're listening. Your canal's going to be very busy soon. But it's a beautiful venue, and he came down and fished exactly as I expected him to. He was just a machine. Like, we got out the van, went separate ways. I was like, I'm going to try up here. Within a few minutes, like, I've got one. And then by the time I got back down to him, he had another one on. It's just ridiculous.
He's ridiculous.
Free-line bread.
What was it like filming with, knowing that Alan works for, if you like, a big brand within the industry? What was it like sort of having him with you, but also actually filming him?
Yeah. It was interesting because I felt there was a bit of pressure to film, but I didn't want to go, without sounding, because obviously he's a big name, but I didn't want to whore him out on my video. Just be like, look, Alan Blair's on my video. So I still kept it as me fishing, and he joined.
Yeah.
Looking back, I probably should have whored it out and made loads of views and been like Alan Blair fishing Bude Canal, but I didn't want to go down that route. So it was good, but trying to keep up with him, I would have had to dedicate all my time to filming because I can't fish and follow him around with the camera the whole time. It was a mega trip. I filmed quite a few of the fish he had, and then in the evening on the marina sort of area where the boats are, just chilling out and fishing out. It was a bit surreal, but I had met him a couple of times before. But yeah, if I look back thinking, I started my Nothing But Fishing channel on a Sony Ericsson on a local run tour, and now a few years later, I'm filming Alan Blair in Cornwall on a better camera and sort of thinking this is a bit bizarre how have I landed here.
But cool, no?
Yeah. And I think I'd been with Carpology by this point, actually, so I was in the industry.
Okay.
But it was still on my channel, not a work one, which I think made it quite cool.
For you, that channel, talk about numbers. What did Nothing But Fishing sort of get to around the time when you joined Carpology?
I know I'm on about 15 now. It's plateaued because I've got no time to put into it. And as with anything online at the moment, unless you're on it, you fall out the algorithm and you're forgotten. So that's where I've peaked at now. But I think by the time I joined Carpology, I was probably around the 10 to 12 mark, which again isn't very big for a YouTube channel.
It is big for like that time in a fishing channel, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You talked a little bit before about the bloggers match and the stuff that you just fished. That whole blogger community in fishing, well, probably more so now because there's more bloggers, but at the time it was quite tight, wasn't it?
Yeah,
there wasn't many of you guys doing it with any regularity to sort of form channels.
Yeah.
That community, talk to me about how that is now. Is it still tight? Or is there more people doing it? It's a bit more saturated. And the guys that you obviously have the bloggers match with, I'm guessing they're still producing content, doing whatever they're doing and sort of, expanding their channels.
Yeah, so the YouTube bloggers match, we've just come back from one at Coken Farm. And it's still kind of the core original people that went from the very start, but we get new faces every year because so many people are doing it and so many people creating really good content. But because it's so saturated, just doesn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And unless you've got the time and to an extent money now to put into pushing your content, you won't grow as easily. You've really got to stand out to make it. I quite often get people message me saying, I'm just starting out my YouTube channel, got any advice? And I can only go by what I done, which was a bloody lot of effort, be natural and put out the best content you can. It's a lot of people now can film high quality on their phone, but it's not the same as a nice cinematic sort of gimbal shot around your rods or a beautiful sunrise. It's difficult because sometimes that's all you want to make and that's what some people want to watch. Some blogs still do well in a very basic format. It depends what you want to create, what you think your viewer's going to want to watch. And just trying to get it noticed is so difficult now, I think.
Have you got to get content out regularly? Is that the key? Is it just... Because I remember... Well, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Carl and Alex and a few others were doing like a video a week.
Yeah.
Like, which seems, if you're doing like a 20-minute video, that's a lot of filming.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's a lot more sort of filming time than the 20 minutes that goes into the final edit. It's a lot to do in a week. Is it a case of that still? Is it a case of if you're consistent and you bang out, I don't know, a video a week, a video every 2 weeks, that would stand you in good stead as growing?
I believe so, because I'm subscribed to a lot of people. I actually don't watch much fishing stuff. I'm subscribed to all sorts of car channels.
What do you watch?
Heavily sort of drag racing, American drag racing, things like that. Guitar videos, car restorations, things like that. Completely away from the fishing stuff because I'm so immersed in it all the time. I think it's nice to have a break. And football, of course, a lot of football. But even some of the people I've been subscribed to for years, I think, I haven't seen any of their content for a while, so I'll search them. And there's videos there. They just haven't been coming up in my feed because they obviously haven't posted as regularly as some of the others, so they sort of disappear. I think it's very much the same with Instagram and stuff. Unless you're constant, they're just like, well, we don't want the algorithms or the powers that be at Instagram and Facebook. Unless you're pushing out content constantly, they're just like, well, you're no use to us, so we'll push someone else that is. It's more difficult now, I think, than it was back when we started because there was so little people doing it, and the content got viewed because there wasn't so much going on around YouTube and algorithms. It's much more difficult now to put out good content and get noticed straight away. There's a lot more. I don't think people realise how much time and patience and effort needs to go into a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I think more so now than it ever has been to make it seen.
The YouTubers, the OG crowd that you have the match with, who are those guys?
So you got myself, Chris Fennell, Carp King.
Yeah.
I think he's a household name now. He blogs every week. I don't know how he still manages to put out videos every week, but he does. You've got the fishing bloggers, Hugh and Sean. They're the ones that have been organising it this year and the last few years. It used to be myself and George Day, who was Fenland Fisherman. I don't think he does any anymore. There's multiple names. I think I was next door to Simon Dew. So you've got a variety of different people that are there. Sorry for those that I haven't listed here, but it changes each year. We got new faces coming in, and then some of us originals, like you say, are still there. I felt a bit of a fraud because my last video for Nothing But Fishing was last year's bloggers match, but I feel like I still put enough content on YouTube to class as a YouTube blogger.
Yeah,
I like to think anyway.
Yeah, definitely. How do you think that is perceived, if you like, with regards to fishing YouTube bloggers and nowadays the whole sort of influencer blogger type thing? Do you think it's a potential career option for people nowadays? Just you fishing content on YouTube and having a successful channel, or have you got to do a bit more? Because there was a stage at which people were doing it as a hobby. Then Carl and Alex came and made it whatever Carl and Alex made it. People were making a little bit of money from it, depending on where their channel was at. Mm-hmm. But then there was a massive wave, especially in recent years, of people putting out content on different social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, etc., getting paid to do so. And the sort of advent, if you like, of full-time anglers, but using those platforms. Mm-hmm. Where is YouTube now for you, do you think, with regards to all that? Could somebody make a channel in it and it sort of reciprocate what Carl and Alex have done and make money and a career off it?
Well, I'm sure it can be done because you still get channels in all different sectors that grow very quickly just because, I don't know, whether they hit the time right or did a specific collab with someone that got them picked up quickly. And if you get a bit of a spike of views, you're suddenly chucked into an algorithm, it'll pop up in recommended and you can boom pretty quickly. That's how a video goes viral, I suppose. So I think that's one element. I think partly luck, partly who you collab. I think collaborations are a big thing now on YouTube because trying to grow your channel on your own organically is so difficult. I think you have to combine forces and be like, I'm doing a video with so-and-so today. If you want to see the rest of this session, maybe go to his channel. I think a lot of that is happening now to grow things. When it comes to making money, you get ad revenue. Unless you're getting big views, it's pennies. My channel is still ticking over. Every sort of 3-4 months, I'll get 60, 70 quid from Google Ireland saying money from YouTube, which is nice because it's just my channel ticking away in the background. Yeah. So I guess for those that do it full time and get the big views, must be earning good amounts, especially when they're getting sponsorships for videos and all sorts. So
what's good views? What are you saying? What would be a good view for Nothing But Fishing for you?
What
were you aiming at?
They used to peak. I think the best I've ever done. Actually, my best video is a really old carp take. People seem to love a video of a rod going off. I think one that's been stolen must be hundreds of times. It's got my name on the bobbin, Nothing But Fishing. It's from Bude Canal, and it's been ripped and posted so many times I've lost count. And I think it's on 370,000 views now.
Really decent.
But my actual blogs, they vary from between, I don't know, 10 to 30 or 40k, which that's from being up for a very long time. So my channel's still pretty low. But for those making money, I don't know, you'll have to ask them. I don't know what they're earning on their view rates. Yeah. But a lot, I would have thought.
Still, that's good going, mate, isn't it? That is good going. If you think about it, the journey that you've come on, the channel that you made, and the views that you're getting 10 to sort of 30. That's a lot in a sector which is quite niche. It's not, I don't know, Sidemen or whatever the old, do you know what I mean? Like main popular mainstream culture. It's a niche little sport that few people do that are passionate about, and that's that. Fair play. I remember filming with you. We went to Clearwater, didn't we?
When I first started and you were just moving to AD.
We were missing each other. I was leaving Carpology.
And I was joining.
You were joining.
And I was going to learn some things if you learn the ropes, and you were going to do a bit on camera. But it was a bit of a, not sure if I can because you were about to join AD, I believe.
Yeah, I think I'd had the job offer from Angling Direct. And they were all a bit like, whoa, it was
exclusive or
both,
something.
Yeah, because they were both like Norfolk-based companies. Yeah. Carpology were brilliant. Joe was just like, look, Hassan, you got to go for it. And then I got it and I was like, I don't know if I can do any other shoots now, Joe, until this happens. So it was a bit of a limbo period, but we went out. That was eventful, mate. That was an absolute, I'll never forget that session for as long as I live, I don't think. Like, I got there earlier than you because it's near me. It's a trek for you.
Yeah, I don't know, it's Lincolnshire, wasn't it? So it was like a good...
mate, you went up to, like, Carnforth. That's like the edge of the Lake District, mate.
Yeah, and I'm from Bath.
That must have taken you forever.
I think it was quite ridiculous. And I remember Joe and Rob questioning a bit the shoot, but I was saying, like, I'm new to the job. I'm not, because I came in straight after Porter, so I didn't learn off anyone. I was chucked straight in. It's like, this is your job.
Lewis had gone to Nash.
Yeah.
Hadn't he?
I think he left quite quickly, so there was no transition period. I never worked alongside Lewis. So I was chucked straight in the deep end, like, this is your job, get going, sort of thing.
You didn't have like any, no, because there was nobody else there, was there?
No, I just had to watch videos that you had done with Porter and do similar, learn. If you look at some of my very first Carpology ones, they're almost scripted because I had to. It was new to me.
Wow,
now it's kind of second nature.
Yeah.
I've done it so long.
You carved your own niche, haven't you? But fair play. But we went. That was a trek for you. We went up there, fished. It was a sectioned off sort of stock pond before they bombed it all together. I'd caught one, but you weren't there. And then, mate,
it poured down at one point. I remember
we had every weather condition. I missed a big koi on a floater.
Yeah,
I remember that. I was gutted at that. I love an ornamental. And then the next morning, my little nipper decided to try and come 8 weeks early, so I had to pack up and get off, didn't I? Luckily, some crazy medical drugs that I didn't know about stopped her coming, and it was all right. But it was a bit panicked, mate.
Yeah,
I was a bit fraught.
Yeah,
you stayed on, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I filmed a couple of videos. I had a little JRC bivvy, I think it was, and Daiwa Bezier X45 DFs cork handler, which is still my rods.
Oh, perks of the job, mate.
I know. That was one of the first perks of the job. So I did photos and I did a video, and I was just, they're really nice. And Joe was just like, do you like them? Would you use them? I was like, yeah, I bet so. This is my first experience of getting a freebie in the industry. He's like, I'll see what I can do. Next thing I knew, he had an email saying, yeah, they said you can keep hold of them. These at the time were like nearly 500 quid a rod.
No, yeah.
I was like, what? Set of three, like nearly £1,500 worth of rods, just like keep hold of them.
Joe, I've got some Bezier rods. Is there any Bezier reel reviews you've got? Yeah, mate. That's definitely one of the perks. So obviously into Carpology, your sort of first impressions of Joe and Rob. Did you know much about obviously you had the magazine, but did you know much about the running of the magazine? Not
a lot. Like, I had the magazine as a subscription several years ago, but I don't read much. I read the few that I got. I work for the magazine and I still don't really read the magazine. I read the odd article. Maybe it's a generational thing or whether it's just because I'm not a reader. I watch stuff and I make stuff, which is visual, and that's how I watch. That's what I make, so that's what I do. With regards to did I know who they were? Not really. I knew of Carpology, but not of Joe and Rob because I just saw the brand and that was what I knew. So I Googled it and I learned some of the basics of Carpology before the interview thing, and I got to show that I know the brand and things. And so I learned what their first issue was. They chucked a pod off the cliffs at Dunwich, I think it was, to test the pod. So I learnt all this and things, and none of that was relevant. They didn't care about that. We just talked about the job. First experience of them was, they bought me a steak and bought me cider. So as far as I'm concerned, you're a friend for life.
I'm in for life, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's been the basis of it ever since. You've worked with them as well. They're not, I don't class them, although they are my employers. That's not the first thing on the list of what they are to me. They're mates at the start at the end of the day. And I get on with them just like I would anyone else. It's probably the same with you. The banter you throw around, some of the things we say to each other, I never would have dreamt of saying to a manager or a boss before. But it's the mentality and the work rate, not work rate, the work style and life we've got at Carpology is very much a bunch of mates. We can be professional when we need to and get the work done. But it never feels like I'm talking to a colleague or a boss.
I think that's the beauty of the fishing industry, isn't it? It all right, especially nowadays. It's a big industry. It is commercial, but very much in everywhere I've worked with anglers, like the Nash office, for prime example, you would not get away with half of the chats you have in there in any other workplace. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. It is that like banter-filled environment that, if you took that to anywhere, you wouldn't survive.
On the spot at times.
You're gone, aren't you? You're absolutely gone. And if your boss said that, there'd be in some sort of tribunal. Yeah. But that's why you do it, because that feel, that family feel, that connection, that is part of a lot of hard work, but part of the enjoyment and the sort of upkeep. But Joe and Rob, especially, because it's so, especially when you came in, because there was two of us going out, you're in, and I think obviously you could film and sort of present yourself. So you were two of us in one, which is absolutely brilliant. But that was an even smaller ship because Joe, Rob, Abby, and then there's just a few.
Yeah, and you've got Lou on the mag.
Oh,
You've got a couple of proofreaders. You've got Ian in the packing room and doing subdeals stuff.
Yeah.
Then you've got myself, Luke and Ian on camera. and editing, and Phoebe doing social media and all sorts like that. So
and that's now. And
yeah, and it's still not a big team, is it?
No.
If you think about it. But yeah, when I started, it was just me as a videographer.
But and also those boys are absolute salt of the earth. I owe them an awful lot for me, because obviously they were a massive influential sort of brilliant get me started. But also Joe is dedicated so much in terms of keeping that going, and they made that digital switch, didn't they? Before a lot of mags that have fallen by the wayside even contemplated it. So hats off to them, mate.
Yeah, and still the same. Whenever there's a trend or certain things that are doing well on YouTube, Joe's straight on it. He's like, should we try doing this? And same with trying to get involved with TikToks and Instagram Reels. Now we're filming certain things in portrait specifically for Instagram. Staying not ahead of the curve, but keeping up with it at least, is definitely helping us keep going. Because if you're too slow to a trend, you look dated straight away. And you can look dated so quickly with trends. We started doing, we've done various things in the past, which I think I tried doing the Carpology carpool thing when James Corden was doing it with the karaoke carpool.
Yeah.
Well, this could be something we could try. And we did a few, and I think by then carpool had been around for a while, so it didn't really take off like we thought it would. And looking back,
it was good, mate.
I enjoyed it because I got to drive around and talk to different anglers, but whether we just ran out of people to do or got busy, it probably got busy more than anything. That's the main crux of it. If we could have a good idea, but if you run out of time, you can't get it done, because it was a day's work for a standalone video rather than a lot of the advertising work that we do, which has to take a priority because that's keeping advertisers happy.
That's paying the bills. Yeah,
exactly. We've got to prioritise that. So I think if we'd got on that sooner, maybe done a few more, it could have worked well. But now we're trying to be really on top of things. You see on YouTube, big thumbnail saying 5 worst mistakes you shouldn't make, or 5 top tips. Things like that just seem to be doing well, but I doubt it would be long until that's a thing of the past and there's another trend that we've got to keep up with.
But the key is you have moved with that. Do you know what I mean? That has definitely moved. That there's no two ways about it. You might have made the digital switch, but you've not coasted. Like there's always sort of, as you say, that adaptation and stuff. When you started getting into the job, you haven't worked in the industry, going into there, your remit would have been pretty wide, vast, and quite sort of left to yourself to sort of deliver. How was that, getting used to it and sort of getting stuck into the realities of the job?
Yeah, because my Nothing But Fishing was very much me going fishing casual. It didn't matter what I said, what I did.
Yeah.
It was anything goes. What I make is up to me. So now I was given, these are the points you need to hit on this video. This is who you're going out with. This is what you need to cover. So it was strange having a brief for these videos, which I just wasn't used to. So it was a bit bizarre going from free, do what you want, to you've got to hit these points and make sure you get them done. Otherwise, obviously, the advertisers may not be happy or whatever. So that was a bit of a jump. And also the presenting style, because I've gone from sitting there and making my cup of tea, talking about how the night went, to actually having to hit these points and keep people in the industry, which I'd used their gear for years. Suddenly I've got to keep them happy. I'm working alongside them. It was a bit bizarre making that jump from casual blogger to someone in the industry.
How do you find dealing with product? Because obviously you didn't have product before, and you're in a position where you're put in front of a camera. You've got to present something, hit key features or whatever you're talking about the product, but you've also got to not slander in any way a brand or a product that you may feel is not as good as other products you've used. How do you feel about that stuff and being able to put that across?
It can be difficult, but I like to think we give our viewers some credit that they can work things out for themselves as well. If we're reviewing something that's £10, say a bobbin that's £10, and you compare it against something that costs £50, of course the quality is going to be different. You can't get the same quality from a cheaper product as you can with a more expensive one. So we like to think that most people can work those things out. So we're not going to say this is cheap, so don't buy it. We're going to say the actual merits for it. And a lot of the stuff everything we film does the job they need to. Whether they'll last as long, I'm not sure, because we can't do endurance tests on them, because the turnaround is insane sometimes. We can have product one day, like I said earlier, we film it. I maybe even had it edited and sent out for approval the same day. So we can't do endurance tests. And they're more overviews. We try and say this, that they're overviews of the video, showing you the key products, the key points of them. If you want to buy something, we like to think people go out and have a look at them themselves. Don't just watch one video and think, I'll get it, and blame them if it's not for me. So it's difficult when product isn't the best, but still does a job, because the kit I started with when I was younger would have been that kit, and it got me fishing. So it will do a job, and it caters for an audience that doesn't have the budget to buy a Jag 3-piece rod set. They've only got the money for a lower end, sort of, I don't know, not Argos, but that was what I started on, was cheaper kit. There's still people out there that is what they can afford, and that's what they can use. So we've got to film all sorts. I don't know if that's answering your question, but...
Yeah, mate, I think it's a difficult position, isn't it? There's no two ways about it. But I like the stuff that you guys are doing now, where you are comparing things, and you're doing there was a blind rod.
It's
coming out.
I don't know when this is going up, but it should be up very soon. Myself, Luke, and Ian all went out with 10 rods under £100. They're all 12 foot 3¼ I think it was, and we got all of the labels and everything covered up with tape, so we had no idea what any of the rods were. Same reel, same line, and then we did casting test, test curve, sort of rod bending test. We attached it to scales and pulled around to the same weight in order for them to see the curvature, the aesthetics, and we didn't know what any of the rods were. And then at the end, when we said what our top rod was, we then unveiled it and we had the winner. So it's quite interesting to see which ones came out on top and which ones didn't. But again, it wasn't a case of slagging any rods off. It was whichever rods excelled at each test. I think that's a way of going around it, is not saying this rod was awful. You'd say these rods stood out.
And that's cool. Like the sort of beauty of it is, all right, you're being paid by brands to advertise their product, but if you do it and use your sort of third party stance, that's pretty useful. It's quite nice, isn't it? I quite like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not as sort of as blatant as going like everything's wicked, or whatever it may be.
We still get people commenting that, saying, "Oh, you never say anything bad about anything," but then we get the people that understand that how a magazine works is through advertising.
And also, I don't think there's any bad tackle, realistically.
No, everything does it. There's so much out there now, and there's so much technology in fishing that everything we get does its job, whether it's for you or not, or it's not the quality you'd like or not. It still does its job. Which
is difficult for you to say, because you don't know who's watching. So you can't tailor something to an audience. But yeah, I get it, mate. I've been in the same position. The best part, or the sort of highlight, or the most enjoyable aspects of your job, is it getting out in session filming people fish?
Yeah, it is. And trips with personal trips. So I've only recently got back from Sweden. That video's gone up. So I went over to learn a bit more about American Tackle. They've got their European distribution and sort of branch in Sweden. So I met up with Gary Benny, who's originally from the West Country, living in Sweden, working for an American company. And they said, because I'd done a bit of work, I was the first one to do work with American Tackle through Carpology.
Right.
I kind of stuck with it. And so when the next job came up, it was like, this one's in Sweden. I was like, quid's in. So I got a trip to Sweden for a week, pretty much. So trips like that are pretty awesome. You can't complain at that. And getting out filming all different anglers, it's nice to see how they approach venues and getting access to some of these venues that I never would have done before.
Where you been, mate? Go on.
Again, I'm rubbish with remembering names, but places that are clearly syndicates that you won't get on ever.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get there and they'll be like, "Oh, did you bring the rods?" You say, "Oh, we would let you put the rods out." And I often don't take my rods when I'm filming. For what we said earlier, that you can't
text, mate, you sent me.
I know it was there.
Fishing.
I know it was there, but I was thinking I'm going quite a long way, and I've never caught that. Would probably be the most northern carp, and it was in the end. Yeah. If I'm fishing, I can't put as much effort into my filming, and if I'm filming, I can't put as much effort into my fishing, which is why I don't often do the two. And when it's work anyway, so I often don't take the rods. And I've been to places before where the owner has been sound. They've been like, "Oh, did you bring your rods to check them out?" I was like, "I didn't even think to bring them." And there's like unimaginable fish in these lakes sometimes. I just didn't bring the rods.
You've been Grenville, Milton Abbas? Where have you been?
Although Grenville, I don't think he would let me fish. When I got there, I said, I haven't bought the rod. He said, good, you wouldn't be fishing anyway. So that was a bit... Well, some owners aren't keen on me fishing. But yeah, most places, they're happy. They're just like, "Oh, have you come again? Bring the rods." So I need to keep the scopes in the boot, just in case.
100% all the time, mate, you do. Let's go down the angler's route. Talk to me about difficult shoots. Talk to me about brilliant shoots. Talk to me about what stands out. You've done a lot. The turnaround of content, like you said, is ridiculous. But you've been out with the likes of Adam Penning, Chile, etc. Talk to me about those experiences, positive and negative.
Yeah, well, they're pretty much all positive because those guys that have gone out with.
Here he goes.
No, I'm not sitting on the fence. Just they've been around for so long and done it for so long, both on camera and the fishing, that they're easy to film and easy to get along with. You still have the odd trip where just the weather is shocking. You can't film when it's pissing down for 2 days straight, or if the fish just aren't playing ball, you're a bit stuck. So those are when it's really difficult, when the weather's not on your side and things. But for the most part, it's okay. I've had, well, I won't just say the name because it's not nice on them, but I did one shoot at Linya with a lad for a company, and it was meant to be a whole shoot on tackling pressured day ticket waters and how they approach it. And we did this whole piece. It was in February, and so the weather wasn't the best, but it was on Hardwick and Smiths, I think it is, the one that's all up and down like an egg box. And I was filming him, and blank to start with, so it was meant to be a how to approach busy day ticket waters. Didn't catch anything. Not the end of the world. Not every shoot you'll get a fish. And I talked to him pretty easy, like we are right now. Absolutely fine without a camera. As soon as you hit record, he froze up. And I could not get a word. It was yes and no answers to me asking him. So it's like, so what rig are you using? Is it a D-rig? Yeah. And are you fishing all 3 rods on a spot or a sprint? Yeah, a spot. And it was that bad. And that's probably the worst shoot. And I put it together because I had to. And I said, this can't go out. It'll get slated. But we sent it to the advertiser anyway and said, look, this is all we could get. And they okayed it. So I was a bit bewildered.
Did it go out?
But yeah, I was bewildered. They said, yeah, it went out. I said, it won't go down well. And sure enough, it got hammered within the first sort of few hours. And luckily, the advertiser saw it. Like we said, it probably won't go down well. They saw it and said, yeah, take it down then. So they still wanted to test the waters with it. It was awful. That's probably one of the lower points in my career, having to still film something as nice as I could. But the content itself was awful.
Content is king, innit?
It is, yeah. It's got to look good, and actually the content's got to be good that's within it. And the content within it was not good on that shoot.
Conversely, best? What stands out?
Best. Personal trip would probably be when myself and Luke got the chance to go to Belgium. We fished 2 different lakes. One of them was Timmy's Lake. Again, caught quite a few fish on that one. Then we moved to Carpology, which is still, to this day, probably one of the most stunning lakes I've ever fished. It was just awesome to be fishing in a different country, and we caught, I think, about a third of the stock in a few nights. We went, we just hit it well. They just spawned, I think, so I think they were pretty up for a feed, because Luke caught the big one, which is normally a mid 40 at £40 an ounces. But well, we had a really good trip there. The venue was beautiful, the fish were beautiful.
Just fishing like, how'd you catch them? I can't.
Same as what I would over here. So I think helicopter rigs, bottom baits, I think, on simple hair rigs, and just fishing simple. And for some reason, it just all came good. We caught fish.
Nice.
Couldn't have asked for more.
Did a couple of French trips, I mean. Did you do a French trip with Joe and Rob?
Yes, that was the Tang de Soleil, I think it is.
Right.
And it's called Trials, Tribulations and Thatchers, because everyone else was catching barmy all week. I had a little drop shot rod, which kept me sane, and the leftover cider from Joe's wedding, which also kept me sane. And I didn't catch anything all week until the final night. I had a brace of 39s. I think it's a 39.4 and a 39.12. So neither quite broke the £40 barrier, but that was 2 French PBs. It was a mirror and a common, both 39s. And we had to be off about 6 hours. We were leaving early. I have a habit of catching last minute, don't I?
That's a tough week, though, isn't it? If everyone's catching.
It was grueling, yeah, but it was still nice to film the other fish. At the end of the day, I was there to film. Yeah. Fishing and catching was a bonus, and I did manage some at the very end. So it salvaged the session for me fish-wise, but it was still an awesome trip to film.
Fair play. Other anglers, other experiences? Have you ever had a nightmare like losing cards or losing shoots or, I don't know,
losing
camera
drones?
drops?
Losing drones?
You lost a drone?
Yeah. So I was filming Mozza up on one of the waters in the Cotswolds, and I just caught my first ever capture of a take on the surface on the drone. As a like a little quite pale common. Awesome. And luckily I was saving all the footage via cache to my phone, so I had a poorish quality, but on my phone. I was like, awesome, I got a cool shot, and they were still feeding. So I thought, we'll keep trying to get another shot. So took the drone straight back out, hadn't backed up the SD card. And he'll say I was flying too close to the spot, but I was far enough away from the spot, it shouldn't have been an issue. But somehow He cast out, and as he trapped the line, the rig sort of flung round as it straightens out once you've caught the line, and that caught one of the props. Ooh. And it sounded like a swarm of bees being molested. Fell straight into the bottom of the lake, and it's never been seen again.
No.
So I lost there's a DJI Mini 2 in a lake in the Cotswolds somewhere. Which is,
so Mozza owes you, mate, basically.
Well, yeah, but luckily it was insured, so I got a new one. And I still had the batteries and stuff from the other one, so I've actually got loads of kit now, 2 controllers. It's like
but
6
not the
batteries.
card.
But not the card. I had the poor quality on my phone, which I managed to salvage somewhat. I upscaled it to 4K. It wasn't the same, but...
What'd you do? Chuck a lead about, try and get it? Or
we went out, I've used the Find My Drone thing. We went out in a boat with the owner with a, what are those things called?
Aquascope.
Yeah. And couldn't see a thing. It was gone. And as far as I know, it's still at the bottom of that lake bed.
A bit of history there, mate.
It is, yeah.
Dig that one up. Any other sessions or in-session pieces that sort of resonate for you? I know you've done a lot.
There was one in particular, not particularly overly known angle. It was, I think his name was Tom McGregor from, at the time, DT Baits. I believe it's been sold on from now, since then. I filmed him on Bayswater, so Gary Bayswater.
Yeah.
And it was the first time they'd ever done anything with us. They thought we'd do a session, he'll talk through the bait and see if you can catch some fish. And he had a red letter session, and even he was just like, if he could script this shoot for a first ever time working with us, doing anything on camera, he had the coconut common, the baby coconut, and 2 or 3 other fish from this, all in this session while I was there. So we got...
Was he at the top end?
Yeah, the little corner.
I remember.
Yeah, like, it was just an incredible session, and even he was just like, I couldn't have asked for anything better. And it was all captured on camera. It got some beautiful water shots of these fish. So it may not be like the most well-known angler, but it was probably one of the standout sessions for just quality of fish.
The best fish you've seen on the bank, that coconut common?
Yeah, up there with box common. I actually filmed Hendry, didn't I? Catching the box.
There's a lot of controversy with that,
There
mate.
was, and it was a load of bollocks as well.
Was
Apologies
it?
for the language, yes.
Yeah, you can say that here, mate.
Yeah,
it was
a bit...
That kicked off big time. I actually still to this... I filmed with Max the other week, went to Horseshoe for the drop, and I still text him every now and again saying, oh, mate, we're struggling. Could you just bring that box coming out the sling of the boot of your car? Yeah, mate, he got a lot of stick for that.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was middle of March, I think, cold, wet, horrible morning, and he caught the box, had it resting in the net, ready for getting stuff sorted on the bank. And I think the green-eyed monsters that were on the other side of the bank started, so probably were already thinking, probably said swimmers roped off for him. It wasn't the case at all. He dropped in after someone. And we actually have the timestamps on the camera for how long we had the fish out, but the story got hyped up by all these anglers that the fish had been on the bank for 40 to 50 minutes. It was drying out and all sorts. So we had at least 2 unhooking mats or 3 unhooking mats, buckets everywhere, got the filming and the photos. And yeah, this story got hyped up that the box common was drying out on the bank. They had it out for 45, 50 minutes. And we have the timestamp facts that it was no more than about 15 from out the net on the bank, filming it. 15 probably sounds quite long, but for the time of day, it was damp and horrible. Buckets of water constantly. It was ridiculous how the fishing world reared its ugly head that day.
Yeah, it was a bit mad, I remember.
Amazing fish.
Yeah, it looked like it was a mega capture. I remember it being blinking cold, wasn't it?
It was horrible. Yeah, it was a miserable session. It was my first time linear fishing as well myself, and I think I had a 24 mirror. Just flicked out.
Got the rods out, yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, the boy.
There's me saying I don't often fish on these shoots, so I did this time. And but yeah, that's... Unfortunately, that happens every now and then fishing, doesn't it? Some controversy kicks up, but give it a week or two, everyone's forgotten about it.
Yeah, apart from me, who keeps texting him. Sorry, Max.
And now he's on this podcast again as well.
What a capture, what a fish. He's an absolute legend, Hendry. Fair play to him. Anybody that sort of, how can you say, made you feel starstruck or sort of nervous to meet? You've worked with some big names.
Starstruck to meet.
You've done the Corder Boys recently.
Yes, we did.
Did you do Danny as well?
So Ian done Danny at Norton Disney, and I filmed Tom Dove and Spooner at Corder HQ for like running up to the new series of Monster Carp.
Yeah.
I guess by this point I don't get starstruck. It sounds bad, but I've been in Carpology over 5 years now. I've met so many anglers.
Yeah.
I guess I don't get that feeling anymore of being wow. Like
no one back in the day, like. No?
Well, yeah, probably, because one of the first shoots I done with a named angler, I'd been at the job for only a few months. I went out with Dave Lane. That was probably a bit hell, like I've watched you on YouTube or whatever, or I've read about you since I started angling. Now I'm out filming you. So things like that. And if I think about it, I've now filmed Frank Warwick when I went over to Belgium, just to film some. I think it was the new Dominator X rods.
Yeah.
And somehow I got a gig to go out and film him over at, I can't remember the name of the lake now, some big old pit in Belgium. So I drove all the way over from Bath, over the Eurotunnel to Belgium to film some rods. Miserable weather, they all blanked. And then I drove home. So but that was a bit bizarre because the first evening, we just all sat around a little fire, Frank telling stories and all drinking whiskey. And again, I was just like, pinch yourself moments, because these are people that I was growing up watching or reading about. And now I'm sat drinking whiskey with him, listening to his stories, and I'm getting paid to be here.
But that's the good bit as well, isn't it? Off camera, when it's done, you know what I mean? The sort of social or the chats you have afterwards, the stuff that you sort of can't broadcast or aren't in the video, but that are all part of it, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think once you've experienced a lot of people in that way, you realise they're just like you and me, just because they're on camera a lot more and they've caught a load. They're still an angler at the end of the day, and they're still down to earth. Not saying that they shouldn't be on a pedestal that they are, because they're a good angler, but you start to see them as just another angler on the bank that you're having a chat with. Yeah. It's quite nice. It's nice that it's good to know that they're relatable as well and not an asshole off camera or off away from the media.
Anyone been difficult off camera?
Not that I can think of. Only trying to pin down, probably. Not so much how they are.
Elusive to get a date out
because they're so busy, or they might cancel last minute sort of thing, which can be difficult because with our tight turnaround, once you've got a date in the diary, that can't really move around. So if you lose an angler last minute, you think, right, we're not going to be able to book in for like 3 months now. So that can be frustrating.
What about putting out, like you said there, tight turnarounds, and if somebody goes on a shoot and they don't have a great shoot and they don't catch fish, do you give it to the brand to see what they want to do with it?
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we don't have the chance to reshoot. And sometimes we'll go out with an angler and they'll say, we haven't got a piece here, and they don't want it to go out, which can be quite difficult. But that's when we then have to film some little standalone bits, maybe little interviews or what's in your tackle box, just to salvage something from the trip. Because at the end of the day, if we've driven 4 hours somewhere to film, you need to get some content-wise. So it's just, getting around some of these hiccups in the filming.
Best angler that you've been out with?
All-rounder.
Yeah.
I haven't been out for him for a while, actually. That reminds me, I'll have to give him a ring on the way back, is probably Rob Burgess. Because I filmed with him. We did a whole series, Carp 365, it was called. It's all on Carpology YouTube as well. We just went for loads of different venues, whether it was covering chod rigs in Seal or fishing out 3 on a spot. We went through loads of different scenarios and different styles of fishing, and every time it just smashed it. We just had fish and we had a piece instantly. And if there's someone I could go out with and guarantee we'd have a piece, it'd probably be with him.
He's good, mate, isn't he? He's really good.
Never blanked.
Nice bloke as well, top bloke. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. The expansion of Carpology. So you've now got Luke Venus, who works with you. You've got Ian, who's come on board. You've got Phoebe in the office. For you, your sort of relationship as a team, if you like, how does that work? How is that? I know you do Luke versus you guys have a little bit of a match. When workload comes in, is it a case of you get your workload sorted out that you need to do, divide it by the three of you, and then Luke versus fits in wherever? Yeah. Or is it a case of the work goes into Phoebe, she organises you or tells you what you've got to do, and then you just crack on?
It's all a bit of a mix. So we've gone through cycles of sometimes Phoebe would have organised who's doing what, and then it goes back to us. We start to slot into the advertisers we do the most work with, because it's easy to build a relationship with that company and think, just send the product to me and I'll do the next video. We do mix it up every now and then, because otherwise it becomes very much I'm doing all ND, Luke's doing all JRC. So we try and mix it so it's not like we're constantly doing the same company, but it is easier to liaise with one person from each of us. But the workload's split up pretty evenly. Sometimes just the way it goes, someone will suddenly get really overloaded, so you've got to send some product elsewhere.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Versus series, that was actually a sponsored series by Prologic, so that is a series that they've paid for.
Yeah.
So that comes under the same umbrella as a rod review, because they paid for a video, so we get to go. So that can get scheduled in rather than fit it in where we can. That is a dedicated shoot that we have to get done, which is quite nice because they're enjoyable. Everyone seems to enjoy
they're
Versus
good, mate.
series.
I like them a lot.
And,
two very different characters, it seems, as well, mate.
Yeah, I've always been a jokey, bit of an arsehole character, even since I was a kid. So, like my I was saying earlier, the friends that I've gone fishing with, they'll attest to it. I've always been the same. I'll be the jokey one, the one that winds someone up. Even if I can tell they're getting peed off, I'll just keep going. and Luke's a bit more subdued. He gives it as good as he gets, but often not as much on camera as I do. So don't worry, he's not getting bullied. He does take it in jest. Apart from his sunglasses, they're awful.
It's not what the HR department have got complaints about. But it seems like a really nice dynamic with all of you guys, and obviously you've increasingly sort of become busier, and that has meant that the team have expanded, but it still seems to have that same sort of nice feel around it, which is what Carpology is about. Look at it in that sort of fondness. For you, the future, you've been to Carpology, you've been at Carpology, 5 years. Is it, do you think, the only job you'll do? Do you think you'd like to work in other areas of the industry? Do you think you'd like to work for a brand, for example? Or do you think, because of the fact that you have carved a niche there and it is so family oriented, that you'll stay? Sorry, Joe and Rob.
I was going to say, if they're listening to this, they're probably sat there squeaky bum time thinking, what's he about to say? A lot of it comes down to job satisfaction for me. I still don't feel like I work many days in my life. Some days you can think, oh, I've got to get out and film that when the weather's awful. But at the end of the day, I'm still got a job that a lot of people would dream of having. And it's sustaining the lifestyle we currently have. Whether things change in the future, because as you know, I got married recently, so the next thing on the cards will be kids.
Oh, he's put it out then.
No, it's already there. Now it's in it's well, I was gonna say in writing, but it's in podcast. That's the next stage of our lives, is house renovations and kids. So it will come down to logistics and financial things, I guess, and whether I can sustain the job I have with forming a family, I suppose. But as it stands, I still really enjoy my job. Still really enjoy who I work with, who I'm employed by, because like I said, the feeling we've got at work is such a close-knit friendship with everyone.
Yeah.
That it doesn't feel like work in our chat. It doesn't feel like when I'm out filming often that it's work. So yeah, I think job enjoyment and job satisfaction plays a very big part in why I'm still at Carpology, because a lot of people flit around and move from company to company.
Yeah.
So some people may look at me and think, 5 years talking about rods and reels and doing the odd session, but I enjoy what I do. I'm still learning as well when it comes to putting out better quality content. I feel I like to think I'm still improving in my presenting style, my filming work. So as long as I'm still progressing in some aspect, I'm not getting fidgety. I'm still enjoying it.
Definitely progression. You can see by the channel, mate. It's growing. It seems to be going in exactly the right direction, and it's changed and improved and progressed, which is half the battle, I think, of job satisfaction. Is you're not going to be bored because there's lots going on. Conversely, the realities of it, if you like, and I think this is just working in the industry in general, but for somebody who works maybe a different type of, let's say, normal in brackets, whatever that means, you have to love it, because there's an awful lot of your time that is spent either traveling, like editing, piecing things together, filming, more so than a 9 to 5 normal job, isn't it? It is a lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, that has its benefits and its negatives. Like today, getting here, obviously I'm enjoying doing this, but it was 3.5 hours here. When we're done, it's 3.5 hours back. And then tomorrow I could be doing the same distance drive to film.
What a crap day, Hassan. You've driven me over. The only reason I've come here is because you've sorted my power barrel out. I've done it now. Get me home. It's taken ages. Nah, but I get what you mean. It is the nature of the beast, isn't it? Especially if you live where you live. I live up north. The travel elements, there's a lot of time, but also the workload is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And as I've said a few times, the turnaround, there's no time to sort of rest and think, I'll have a little bit of downtime, because the next video is already there. The next product's already on your doorstep to get out and film. So you can't chill out very often.
You're a quick editor though, mate.
I am. And that's one of the good things. Because I've done it for so long, I can schedule my time sometimes. As long as I get the work done, it doesn't matter whether I've done it in 2 hours or it's taken me a day. I feel like if the work's done, shouldn't feel bad about then thinking I'll have an afternoon off, sort of thing. And that's how it's been for 5 years. So I don't think this is news to Joe and Rob if you're listening, but sometimes I'll get everything done and have a bit of a chill afternoon or something.
In the same podcast, he's managed to get a pay rise and then get that pay rise taken away.
Yeah.
No, fair play, mate. Yeah, it's all about output, and that's what they want, isn't it?
Exactly.
You're doing the job and you're doing it well. The future, you said there, hopefully, as you said, we'll stay at Carpology. I'd like to see Carpology, mate. It's just nice knowing you're there, isn't it? Like, you've done a good job and you've carved your own niche there. You're angling and nothing but fishing. Two things which we haven't really sort of talked about come Carpology years. You've got a membership of a syndicate. Is there any aspirations you've got future-wise with your angling? Is there time for it? And nothing but fishing. Is that realistically going to have to fall by the wayside because of the fact that you're so busy?
It already has. You can just look at my output. It's dormant. I started this, I've just filmed on the weekend actually at the Bloggers Match, and my opening scene is me sort of pretending to wake up the camera and say, it's time to make a video for this channel for a change. So I'm very aware it's just sitting there dormant, gathering dust. But
does that grate you or not?
It does. I still enjoy putting out the content I do with Carpology, but there is part of me that misses just making my own content. That there's no strings attached, just going out fishing and putting them out, because I knew how well received they used to be. That's why I would never delete it. It'll always sit there until YouTube either decides to delete it or I'm not here anymore. So, and it's also nice seeing the memories. If every now and then I'll just think, I remember that trip, and because I've filmed pretty much every trip I've ever done since I started filming, I can relive it. And that's another big part of my channel, is that I can, rather than some people keep a diary or just memorize it, I can visually rewatch it and relive a session, which I don't think a lot of people can do. So that was the nothing but fishing part of the question. The angling side of things, most of it is through work now, because 5 days a week I'm out on the bank filming different people, which is why I bring the rods to shoots like we did at Girton the other month. So that's why I'm trying to take the rods a bit more now, because I've went through a stage of never taking any kit with me, and often there was downtime where I could have put the rods out and capitalised on those chances. And because I have so little time personally now, I think I need to start doing a bit more when I'm out filming, as long as it's not infringing on my filming. Because come the weekend, I want to spend time with my wife. I want to do stuff. With the football season's coming back, so I won't be spending time with my wife, because I go into Bristol City.
Is that football or
my season tickets here? Who do you support?
Leicester, mate. We're not going to have a great.
Oh, you've got your old manager. We've got Nigel Pearson at the moment.
Exactly, mate. You've got your head in the sand, boys. You ostriches. Yeah, it's sort of football, isn't it, mate? I'll let you off. It's a passion. You're down there. We'll let you off. You said there you're fishing, obviously trying to do it. Do you feel you still have the same like passion for it, or can you get sort of fishinged out?
Yeah. I think I don't have the buzz I did when I was a kid, when like you get a new bit of kit. That's another big thing with, it's nice having so much kit readily available to you, but I never get the buzz anymore of buying new kit and looking forward to using it. Remember when you've bought your new set of reels or you got a new set of alarms, you'd be like, oh, can't wait to go fishing using that. Now, because I'm out with different kit every other week, it's lost its buzz from new kit side of things. I still enjoy going fishing, especially new places, but it's definitely not as the flame isn't. I'm trying to think of a saying. I don't think I know many sayings. The flame's not shining as bright as it used to, if that makes sense. But whether that's just because I haven't found a venue that's really lighting my fire at the moment, I don't know. Or if I had more time to dedicate to a venue personally, I might get that buzz back a bit more. I still enjoy my fishing, but I don't often get that going fishing in the morning feeling anymore.
Yeah, fair. Any real standout piece of kit? You'd reference kit there, and I'm conscious that I haven't really punished you over kit. What, you took the rods, mate, they were your first thing. Any standout things that you've gone, oh, they are not going back, Joe, mate?
Well,
keep them
sometimes these companies just say, well, if you keep hold of, like, we get asked so often, do you keep all the kit? Not anymore, more than anything, because my sheds are full. Yeah. So I'm not wanting for anything really. So it is quite nice that you can either sort a deal out with some of these companies or keep hold of them, because at the end of the day, if you're using it, it's getting seen. It's subliminal advertisement for them. So it's in their own best interest to give you stuff. When it comes to, so with the question, what any standout items?
Yeah, what items have you gone like, oh yeah, that's a good bit of kit? I've got him here. He's on the spot.
You have got me.
Look at that long pause. We haven't had a long pause.
I know.
Sorry,
I've been talking like non-stop.
No, this is good.
I've run out of water as well. So I'd say you're probably going to love this because it's a Nash product. But the thing that caught me in my PB and caught me lots of fish is a bushwhacker. I kept all of that when that first came out, and I was one of the first people outside of Nash probably to have one because it was your ex-show one before they're in shops. I was using one quite early on.
We love giving you a prototype, don't we?
You do, I know.
You don't get the sort of all singing, all dancing done one. You get like prototype version 1. I've had to get you a new alarm head, mate, because you've got prototype R4.
The prototype R4 did work, but it arrived covered in glue. It was strange. I had to use a heavy-duty oven degreaser to get this. You say it's glue. I don't know if you boys got very excited when it came in the office.
Reedy's got well excited when they've come in, hasn't he?
But it still does the job. It just drains the battery every 3 sessions. So
probably need a proper one, not a prototype. But you've got one coming, so it's all right, mate.
Yes, I have indeed.
Right, good. You've done that bushwhacker. You've sorted yourself right out the end. There's a lot of advertising you've got in here as well. Good skills from you, mate. I'm impressed. Last question I'm going to give you before I go into quick fire questions. For you, you've managed to form a career within the angling industry. The angling industry is forever changing. But a massive question that everybody gets that works in the industry that is fortunate enough to, myself included, and we are fortunate, definitely so. For any youngsters who want to follow in the Wooltorton, I've done it.
Do it with the accent.
But I'm laughing now. Well, I can't even try it, mate.
Oh, he's gone.
Mate. I'm not even going to go. I can't.
I thought you were professional at this.
Wooltorton. Apologies for the last 10 seconds of this podcast. What advice would you give them in terms of a career within the industry, how to forge that path, what to do?
It comes out to the same question when people say, I'm setting up a YouTube channel, got any advice? I think you have to enjoy what you're doing. As soon as you're not enjoying either your fishing or your filming, stop doing one of them, because you've got to enjoy what you're doing. That's what I hope has always shone through with me. I've always enjoyed filming and fishing. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have done it. And I think that shines through with the quality of the stuff, because if you're passionate about something, you're going to put more effort in. If you're doing it for the sake of, I'll make some videos and hopefully I'll get sponsored eventually, or hopefully, and a lot of people unfortunately message saying, I'm going to set up a YouTube channel, how do you get sponsored? Like, you're getting into it for the wrong reasons straight away. If you want to make videos, do it because you enjoy it. Don't look for an end goal, because then it becomes forced, and it's pretty transparent if that's what you're trying to do. I guess some people that is all they want to do it for, is to get some kind of sponsorship. But from me, if you're asking advice from me and my ethos on it all, it should be down to enjoyment and being yourself on camera, not watching stuff and thinking, I need to replicate that because it works well for them. Make it unique.
Fair, very good words of advice, Sam, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat, mate. I know you were slightly conscious of coming on the podcast.
I was, because I'm so often in control of what I'm filming and what I'm saying, because I'm the one that edits. As soon as someone else puts a camera on me, or I'm doing this, I'm like, oh, what if I say something wrong and they don't take that out or something?
This will be completely different in the edit, don't you?
Yeah, you're going to take out that little bit of you stumbling trying to do the West Country.
I'll keep that in. I'm not very good at accents, mate. I can live with that. No ego here. Accent's terrible. Before you go, quick fire questions, mate.
I'll try and be quick.
No, well, you can pad them out if you want and give me a bit of detail. Just say they're quick fire questions. It's basically a lovely way of rounding off my lovely hour and nearly 2 hours. That's gone very quickly, mate. You kept me entertained. Only drink cider for the rest of your life.
Liking the sound of this?
Only drink cider for the rest of your life. Or drink everything else but cider for the rest of your life. So you can keep it exclusively.
Or can I drink like squash and things?
Yeah, so you can have the other option, which is no cider, squash and things, or just cider.
So I think it's going to surprise you, I'd ditch the cider, because I'm quite partial to a glass of red now, and I like a lot of beers.
Who even are you? What has this man become?
I know, but if you're going to have to take, I think it just comes down to the fact I like alcohol, but if I was to have to restrict to, I guess there's a lot of different ciders, and you can get...
He's thinking about it now. So what's your option? You getting rid of them? You keeping the cider, or are you getting rid of cider?
I'm getting rid of cider. I'm going for ditching cider so I can have red wine, white wine, beers.
You've let me down.
Spirits.
You've let this podcast down. You've let the West Country down. And above all else, that Thatcher's deal is definitely not happening now.
You can still have a pint of whiskey, though. Oh, that's going back to lockdown times, that is.
Flashbacks. Bristol City winning the Premier League or UK unknown, uncaught 60-pounder?
Bristol City winning this Premier League. Because that will make a lot more people happy than me catching a 60.
Oh, don't give it the sort of...
I'm being very philosophical about that. No, I'd love to see Bristol City even in the Premier League, let alone win it.
You'd be the only one. I'm joking, mate. Fair play. Drum and bass or country and western?
Drum and bass.
Really? I thought you'd like a bit of country and western.
I'm a metalhead, predominantly. Yeah, so you should have put metal in there rather than country. Do I really look like country? I mean, you look
didn't
like...
you play me some thrash metal or something?
Probably.
Oh, it's absolutely. That was mad. Yeah, fair play. 3 celebrities you'd like to take fishing?
Oh, well, we were talking celebrities earlier, and probably fishing-wise, it's going to have to be the only people I've never filmed with and would love to because I grew up watching them, Matt Hayes and Mick Brown. I think you can't say better than that. And last celebrity... Well, if I'm good, I can't say Jeremy Clarkson. I was going to say Jeremy Clarkson because I grew up watching Top Gear, but it has to be a standalone celeb. So I don't think you'd have to have Clarkson with the other two.
Yeah, Hammond and May in there as well. You could have those 3.
Well, I'm having 3, and then can I have one more? What is it?
Yeah.
I was going to say Nigella Lawson just to see cook on the bank and look quite nice like that. Someone's fit mum you can't go near, but she's still right to look at.
She's very suggestive with the old lingo, isn't she?
She is
when
indeed.
She's cooking. Ultimate YouTube collaboration, who would it be?
Well, like I said earlier, I don't really watch much fishing stuff anymore.
Yeah, you can collaborate
So
with anyone.
So one of the people I watch who posts constantly is someone called Cletus McFarlane, and he lives in Florida, and it's all about cars. Anything he wants to try his hand at, whether it's flying a helicopter, drag racing, jet boats, all sorts, you name it, he does it. So it's just the most American person you can think of. And that's what he does. I think it's because so far away from my life. I think I'd probably do that. He'd probably put a twin turbo V8 on a power barrow, probably. So that'd be a good collab.
Who'd win in a Carpology office fight?
I'd like to say it myself, but the only fight I've ever been in, I was knocked out, and I didn't even know I was in the fight. I was drunk in a club, and
someone just lamped you?
I think I peed someone off accidentally. Next thing I know, I was outside the club with bloody nose, swollen eye. And not broken lip, but my lip was bleeding. So that's the only fight I think I've ever been in.
0-1. There's always a
So I don't think
office.
In the office.
You never know, mate.
In the office, I don't know. Not Luke. I don't think Joe and Rob would be. I reckon actually the new recruit Ian will probably have a good go. If it was an email fight, Phoebe would definitely win.
Oh yeah,
she's stern on an email.
Is she?
Yeah,
to the point. Get that edit done. If you made your own cider, what would you call it?
Scrumpy Joe? Curly Scrumps? I don't know.
Plagiarism. Most annoying phrase in carp fishing?
Yeah, one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I've got rid of that.
Does that sound like you? No, it'd probably be, maybe not most annoying, but most overused was, doesn't matter what they look like, how much they weigh when they look like this. Everyone still cares about the weight, don't they?
Shh. I catch pasties, mate. I've got to make it sound. No, yeah. Advice you give your younger self?
Ooh, probably not to retaliate to the trolls. Early days of YouTube, when I was, 14, 15, very much your emotions are all over the place, and you put something out that you thought you worked hard on, looks good, and some 50-year-old bloke on his armchair typing away, slagging you off. I used to take them to heart and bite back, and I wish I just didn't retaliate now and thought, what's going on in their life that makes them think putting a 15-year-old lad down is making them happy?
What are you like now, mate, when you get a dicey comment?
We normally screenshot it and make fun of them in the work chat.
What's the best one you've had? You did that one where
we did. We went through all the comments at Christmas, didn't we? That you read in YouTube hate comments. I think, when you've put out like a piece that you're quite happy with, and then someone calls you a ginger-haired nonce, it's just like, charming. Why do I bother trying to keep you entertained?
Is that what you had? Ginger haired?
I think one of them, I've been called a nonce a couple of times. And I don't know if this person's ever Googled what a nonce actually means. It's a convicted paedophile. Like, come up with something that I might actually be.
Oh, I love the defaults.
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful. Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
probably,
Right, fair play. Bucket list destination. Fishing destination.
I was going to say fishing was. Somewhere just completely away from what I'd normally fish, I reckon. So somewhere beautiful in Italy or something.
Nice.
Something scenic.
Very nice. Best angler you fished with?
I think we said that earlier, didn't we? I said Rob Burgess.
Rob Burgess, you did say that.
All-rounder.
Yeah. I'll let you off. Last question. Night in with the missus or night out on the bank?
Depends what the missus is offering.
Worrying?
You could have left that silent for longer to make that even more awkward. Probably a night with the missus because I'm fishing so often.
The missus is offering. What did you eat when we were filming? What did she cook you? It was rogue, mate. You're on some health kick.
Where were we? Oh, I was having
we went to Girton.
green
What did you
bean
have?
salads, wasn't it?
What was it? Edamame bean salad or something, wasn't it?
That's the one. Yeah, I forgot to even bring the food today. I've had an apple and a banana and I'm starving.
I remember you ringing her and going, "It's all right, but it needs something in it."
Yeah, I can't remember what it was now. We haven't had it again since.
Yeah,
so
that made me laugh. Joe, you're an absolute star. Thank you so much for coming in, mate. I massively appreciate your time. Thank you guys for listening. I'll be back soon with another Nash Off the Hook podcast. Until then, check out Carpology's YouTube channel. Check out Nothing But Fishing because there must be some absolute classic old videos that we've talked about. And Joe, mate, thank you so much once again.
Thanks for having me.